business. I got my wild cherry Diet Pepsi, and I got my blackjack gum here, and I got that feeling. Yeah, that familiar feeling that something rank is going down out there.
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you, I make you laugh, I'm here to fucking amuse you. How the fuck am I funny? What the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me what's fun.
Oh, me, sir, goddammit. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers gotta hug.
Come out to the coast, we get together, have a few laughs.
Oh, you!
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
I'm so wasted! Anybody move, I'll blow your fucking head off. And the medic gets out and says, oh my God.
I'm your huckleberry.
My advice to you is to start drinking heavily.
Put that coffee down.
Pauline, this calls for the old Billy Baroo.
That's a huge bitch.
The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Hey, where are the white women at?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. It's over, Johnny. It's over!
They are Hawk and Animal, the Legion of Doom. I'm certain you heard the comments earlier on from the men that are going to be challenging you tonight for these titles. Power and Glory, Paul Roma, and the mighty Hercules, Animal.
That's right, Gene. Hawk and I are back there watching the monitor, and we couldn't help overhearing you two little geeks. You tell us we don't deserve to be champions. You tell us you're going to show us where the power and who is the glory. How do you think we got to be world champions? By beating nobodies? We've beaten the best that the World Wrestling Federation has to offer, and we're going to be champions for a long, long time. Right, Hawk?
What about it, Hawk?
Swelling of the fluid sac surrounding the brain, contusions, inner bleeding. These are the things that our dreams are made of. Power and glory, and you'll soon to be renamed Sour and Gory. Because when we get done with you, your mother won't accept the looks that you have been thrown about the ring from one end to the other right here in London.
You know, gentlemen, aside from your title defense, I don't know if with the magnitude of this title defense, I don't know if I should touch on it, but it's conceivable the two of you are going to be involved in the gigantic battle royal at the end of the night. Now, I tried to ask a couple of people earlier on what would happen, say, for instance, if Hawk and Animal, if you were to be the final two men in the ring at the end of the battle royal, how would things shake out?
Just one way to sum that up, Mean Gene. You see, Gene, Hawk and I, ever since we were little punk kids in Chicago, we've been against the odds all our life. And we've proven, just the way a lot of people out there have proven, that you can be something. And now, we're the WWF World Tag Team Champions. And after we beat you, Power and Glory, we're coming after that Battle Royal because there's nothing better that the Legion of Doom likes is a good gang fight. Right, Hawk?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. They are the Legion of Doom, Animal and Hawk. Their title defense tonight is against Power and Glory, and it all happens here at Royal Albert Hall. Speaking of that, let's get back outside to my close friends and colleagues, the Weasel and you, Gorilla Monsoon.
What a rush!
it pretty much just repeats from there. Anyway, what is going on, everybody? It is Saturday. It is late night, and this is the Hollywood Hangout. We appreciate y'all joining us out there, especially the chat room, joining us late live. Definitely appreciate that. I am Boxman, and across from me is...
Old Double A. What's going on, Box? What's going on, chat?
Man, that was... Man, talk about what a rush. Man, I miss promos like that, man.
The cocaine fueled ones? Awesome.
I miss
them too.
Steroids and cocaine and just everything mixed together, all the adrenaline and I miss it, dude. I really do. I love promos like that. I want them back again. I do.
Dude, I swear to God, man, you could literally tell who did a fresh line right before the red light went on.
Well,
like Jesus Christ, like name them: Hogan, Piper, fucking Road Warrior, Hulk. You could just tell, like, all right, Hulk, we need you. All right, give me a second.
Yeah.
Well, you could just tell.
Well, God damn, that was fucking just like I said, an amazing promo. Obviously, we are doing, if you haven't figured it out by now, we're doing the Road Warriors, the life and death. What the fuck am I talking about? Life and death of wrestling's most dominant tag team. This was in 2005. They did this. So this was only 2 years after we lost Hawk or Michael Hegstrand, who this is obviously dedicated to. So yeah, just a short 2 years after that, man.
Yeah, man. And a lot of arguments could be made about this one was better than this, but to me, you can't, it's no debate. No debating. The Road Warriors are the greatest tag team of them all. I think that point is like inarguable. I really do. They were literally the Hulk Hogan of their division. You don't get any bigger in wrestling than what the Road Warriors were at their absolute peak.
Right. Yeah, dude. Oh, and that's mentioned a few times in this video. Full disclosure, I got a lot of clips. I'm not gonna lie, but I sort of made a run sheet, and I think we're gonna actually get through this a little quicker than everyone's sitting there going, "Oh my God, a lot of clips." I promise you, I think it's gonna be a little quicker than you think. Real quick, let's go ahead and do the shout outs. What do you say, Anthony?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start with the usual, the wrestling OD, the wrestling overdose. Good God, that man should be a fortune teller for naming his show that. That's Shaheen over there, Wrestling Overdose. Check him out. Nuclear Heat Graphics. Check him out at nuclearheatshop.com. Don't forget to check out Wrestling's High Marks over there on YouTube. Good people over there. Always got to give a shout out to Bobby Anthem and Bobby Blades on the Inhuman Experience. And Bobby Anthem over there searching for his lost soul still. I'm glad he's still searching. Hope he finds it, but, hope part of it lets him still do the show. Anyway, we're going to go on now to Eric, Doug, and Doug's brother Daniel. They're on the Unscripted Wrestling. That is on the Philly Sports Passion feed, and that's where you can find all that. You know where to find all that. Apple, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, everywhere like that. Also shout out to Stephen Milan. Like I said, always, down to share the shows. Really appreciate that. Check him out on letterboxd.com/Stephen Milan. Dude's up to almost 6,000 movie reviews, and I don't know how I would even type out a whole review. So Jesus, check out Wrestling Umbrella and check out Hollywood Hangout right there. One group and one page you should both check out. Check out the Mark Report Tuesdays at 6:30 in the morning. What the hell? You're awake? Let's do that. And that's good enough for now. Let's fucking get into this shit, man. I'm pumped for this.
Yes, sir, man. Like, I don't know, man. At certain times when we hop on Skype for this shit where I'm just like, yeah, I like doing the show, don't get me wrong, but there are certain episodes that I'm like extra pumped for, and this is one of them. I'm literally fresh off of watching the documentary, hadn't seen it in a few years, and man, it brought back a lot of memories, a lot of good memories, and really reminded me of what made me a fan of pro wrestling. Because believe it or not, the Road Warriors were actually on the first wrestling show I ever saw.
Really?
So yes, this is pretty sentimental for me.
Well, definitely one of my favorite. Obviously, I've said a ton of times on the wrestling show, I'm a huge fan of tag team wrestling. Rock and Roll Express, I fucking my absolute favorites when I was a kid. Road Warriors, my second favorites when I was a kid. I thought these guys were badass motherfuckers. Turns out they really were, but I always thought they were. That was just one thing I loved. Midnight Express, who they go over in here. I loved tag team wrestling. I just loved it. Mostly, I'm not gonna lie. What mostly drew me was Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express. That feud drew me to tag team wrestling. But when these guys came out, I was always like, whoa, especially as a little kid.
Yeah, I think Edge pretty much summed up a lot of people that came up during that time period. What drew you to the Road Warriors was the fact that every time you saw them come to the ring, you felt like you were going to see a decapitation. You literally felt like you were going to see somebody die in the ring.
Yep,
because their shit looked snug. It was probably because it was. And they laid their shit in. Like, good Lord. Like, they weren't fancy. They were pretty cut and dry. But, man, what they did was impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, and even Edge says he always thought someone was going to get decapitated in the ring. And with that fucking, and there was always talk, once the old dirt sheets came out, that, that doomsday device hurt a lot of guys because there really was no way to fall right because they laid that shit in and didn't let you fall the way you should.
Yeah. I think one of the more famous or infamous ones was against, of all people, Henry Godwinn. I don't know if you remember, they had a match on, I think it was Shotgun Saturday Night. And it's probably still on YouTube. And the way he landed, he broke his neck off of the doomsday device. And the way he landed was, ugh. You felt like you literally could see the point where his neck broke because he landed all wrong. Because you remember what the Godwinns looked like; these were big dudes.
Oh yeah,
he landed all wrong. You could literally see, you could tell the point where his neck would have just went snap, and it wasn't a pretty sight.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, obviously he landed wrong if his neck broke. That that's par for the course, Anthony. Just saying.
On the whole, you mean on the whole?
On the
yeah.
On the whole, it's it's a given, at the end of the day.
Oh, well, we'll get to that, Weebs. We're gonna intersplice some stories that weren't covered in the documentary, such as the Road Warriors giving a doomsday device to Vince in a strip club, which is an amazing story in and of itself.
Yes, make sure you got that because I don't have any of those. I didn't do as much as I usually do for this, but this is definitely, like I said, one that I'm fucking really excited to do. Damn, if we ever get a Rock and Roll Express, I'll fucking do that one too. But I guess
they do have a documentary out, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, they do. I think they made it themselves, though, right?
No, actually, guy that works for High Spots did it. It's a good documentary, but
all right,
it's not the Road Warriors.
No,
put it like that.
No, nothing's the Road Warriors. In the beginning of this movie, though, let's go ahead and get right into it, Anthony. Then we'll do what we usually do. Completely go off track and make the show take even longer. You know what I mean?
No. We're gonna stay on track for this one. We're gonna be
okay.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry, like a Road Warrior squash.
Oh shit! Should I start yelling?
Yeah.
All right. Well, in this first part of the show. All right. Anyway, in the first part of this movie, we get Arn Anderson, Michael Hayes, Brooklyn Brawler, Booker T, Edge, Jim Cornette, Steve Kern, Eric Bischoff, Paul Ellering, Jerry Briscoe, and Ric Flair.
And can I say something real quick?
Yes, you can.
This was during the time period where, my God, because I watched a lot of WWE documentaries during this time period, and don't get me wrong, they were always top notch. But it just seemed like the only reason the Brooklyn Brawler maintained a job, at least during this era, was to appear exclusively for these documentaries, because there was a stretch of like 2 or 3 years where he was literally on every fucking thing WWE put out.
Yeah.
He could have had nothing to do with the subject, and he was still all over that bitch.
Edge too. Edge is the same way too. Edge is on so many of these, and I'm like, how is Edge on half of these? He wasn't even alive for some of this shit.
Well, Edge, I can, because he's a current star, and he was a fan.
All right.
So he brought that fan aspect to it, but I don't know, man. It's just like, look, don't get me wrong. Brawler seems like a nice guy, but it just seemed like he was one of those guys that kind of like didn't really add a whole lot except just to say the Road Warriors were really tough, and then it would jump cut to something else. Like,
yeah. Well, if you listen to Kamala's song "Push It and Pull It," it was Brooklyn Brawler that was on the bearskin rug, taking it, catching Anthony. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's right.
Yeah. So let's not go down that rabbit hole, please.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Look, dude. We'll say those holes for Pat Patterson. That's not that kind of show. So get back to the opening box, please.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and play the first clip before we get in trouble here. Here we go. Let's go ahead. Like I said, we get all those guys talking a little bit about them, and I have to say, one reason I love watching these WWE documentaries is to see the regression of Ric Flair's hair.
It's you dick.
He's still
you're a Flair fan too.
I am, but he still has kind of the golden hair here. It hadn't gone to the color it is now, which is like it's supposed to be gray, but he bleached it, so it's not really the right color because it's still gray. It's still golden here. It looks good. I like it. It. Flair still looks decent, but the other thing I've learned is Michael Hayes does not age. I don't know if that's because of whiskey or what, or if he made a deal with the devil, but he doesn't seem to age.
Well, you know what that PS stood for, right? I believe it's purely sexy.
I thought it was pretty sexy or purely sexy. I knew it was one of the two. But damn, that guy doesn't fucking age. I mean, I know this is 2005, but look at him. He still doesn't look much different than this right now. Anyway, first clip coming up. Let's do this.
Are always ready.
The Road Warriors were the first of their kind. They were over-the-top bad guys posing as good guys.
They epitomize what success is in this industry because they dared to be different. In the ring, out of the ring, in the gym, promo-wise, in-ring ability, charisma-wise, they had the whole package.
What I remember most about the Road Warriors is almost like Mike Tyson, the fear that they brought to their opponents.
Back then, I mean, I really believed they would knock somebody's head off with a clothesline. I thought I might see a decapitation.
I would say the Road Warriors had more imitators than any other tag team in the history of the business.
Every time I heard their music, it just gave me a chill because I knew I was in for the beating of my life that night.
You know, they were able to kind of redefine the villain and the hero with respect to sports entertainment back in the 80s.
The guys were big and they were strong and they were brute force, and it was just a real exciting time to be in the business.
If they respected you, they were your friends for life. I'll respect them for as long as I walk the face of the earth.
They really worked hard, they tried hard, they cared about our sport, and both in my eyes deserved all they got.
All right, so there we go. There's the beginning of it right there. I'm not going to play a ton of clips. Believe it or not, I got a little bit of space in the beginning. Not much, about 4 or 5 minutes. But so there you go. Brooklyn Brawler literally reading off the teleprompter.
The total package. Like that, I mean, that's a man who took Jim Ross's advice to an absolute T. He maximized his minutes there because he literally fucking stressed every single goddamn word that came out of his mouth. Promo wise, charisma wise, they were the total package.
In the gym, out of the gym, in the laundry room, out of the laundry room.
Like, on the road, off the road, behind the curtain. Jesus, those were like Jesus Christ. That was, look, man, I guarantee you, like he was in the back. Like when we producing another DVD, what you need from me, guys? I got a lot of shit to say. I didn't work with these guys a ton, but I got a lot of shit to say.
Yeah, he's always got a lot of shit to say. Yeah, Jesus Christ. In the ring, out of the ring.
And I also liked Jerry Briscoe at the end there. It seemed like he had literal tears in his eyes. Like, I'll have respect for them for as long as I walk the face of this earth.
Yeah. God damn it. I'm still scared of fucking Animal, god damn it. All right. I think that's what he was thinking. I'm still scared of Animal. I would be. That's a big son of a bitch right there, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, on the whole, there I go again. I love the documentary, but my one little nitpick.
What?
And this comes from, obviously, Hawk couldn't be involved, but I wish we'd have had that counterpoint, because as we found out, like years down the road, seeing Animal in different interviews, said he takes credit for a lot of shit. And if you didn't know any better, you would just think like Hawk was just along for the ride. Yeah, I picked out the outfits. I kind of had an idea about what they wanted, so I just told Hawk, all right, just follow my lead, and you'll be all right. Like, that's the only thing. That's my only little nitpick. I really wish Hawk was around to kind of contribute to either co-sign or be like, no, that's not exactly how shit went down.
Yeah, that would have been a little better. But of course, obviously, that just wasn't in the cards. Man, I kind of wish we had that too. Obviously, I still, to this day, I still wish, Hawk was around, because, I would love to see this tag team still today. I know they're old, but I would still think they'd be doing it. I still think they would be out there doing the same shit. Let's go ahead and get back real quick. It's, they both grew up in Chicago, and then strangely, around 8 years old, they both ended up moving to Minnesota, to Minneapolis. They went to different schools, but still kept in touch. Obviously, it's just kind of weird to me how they both grew up in the same place and then ended up moving to the same place.
Without knowing each other. It's just funny how life works. It's almost like it was fate.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost kind of fate, karma, whatever you want to call it, kind of working together there. But they go into that, and then they were both ended up being at a gym in
Boxman. Sorry.
Go.
While it's on my mind, can we break down Animal's wardrobe choices here? Because I'm sorry, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Oh man, you gotta do this to the guy.
Dude, come on, dude. Look, we all get old, but my God, he has on like a doo-doo brown like velour sweatsuit with a Road Warrior jacket. It's like he got too much going on, dude. Like, I got an HD TV. I got like bright ass brown, red, black, a WrestleMania cap going on. Like, gee, I was praying, like, please, did somebody not tell him this was being filmed?
I don't think he cared, dude. Hey, look, I'd just be lucky he wasn't in a pair of Zubaz doing, just sitting there.
Dude, I would have preferred that. Zubaz, a Gold's Gym tank top, a fanny pack. But dude, like, his wardrobe, it was too much going on.
Just too much for you. Too much going on for you.
Yeah, it was a lot going on.
Oh, jeez. All right. And Michael Andolini, I do have that story you got, and I do have it ready to go. We'll play it a little bit later in the show. So just wanted to let him know I had it. Anyway, barring the wardrobe of Animal, they were at a gym in Plymouth, Minnesota. Guess what the gym was called, Anthony?
I'm going to guess it was called the Gym.
It was actually called the Gym. And we find out that a lot of guys work there. We find out that Barry Darsow was also really good friends with Animal and Hawk both, which was another thing that it was kind of weird how they did like the most rip-off tag team of them, and they were all friends. But we do hear a little bit here from Barry Darsow. We hear a lot from him in this little DVD here, and we hear from John Laurinaitis, Animal's brother, Johnny Ace.
Yeah. And we should also point out that they take a tour of the gym and they kind of get into the history there about Animal and Hawk's workout regimen, and they really paint the picture that Minnesota really did breed a lot of champions. I mean, you got the Road Warriors, you got Barry Darsow, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude. John Nord, who was the Berserker in the WWF, Nord the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, Jesse Ventura. So a lot of people came out of Minnesota.
Yeah, and actually, that's the second clip I have, Anthony, is him kind of going through that little wall of fame in the gym right there of some of the guys that have come out. So that was the next clip, and I'll go ahead and play it. Way to fucking segue, Anthony.
Hey, I try.
I know. That was very good, though.
Wall of Fame here. As you can see, some of the top athletes around, not only top nationally known bodybuilders and powerlifters. You got pictures of Brock here. You got Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect over there. You have Joan Hoffenberger, who competed in Miss Olympia. You got Scott Norton, who wrestles out in New Japan right now. Now he went to high school with Hawk, as a matter of fact. And then you got Jesse DeBody's pictures up there. You got Road Warrior shots up there. And a lot of powerlifting stuff, wrestling pictures. This is the Wall of Fame. If you're famous in the sports world, you'll make the gym wall.
There you go. And now he does get into the workout regimen. I think he said they worked out like 4 hours or 4 days a week for like 6 hours? It was ridiculous.
Yeah, something like he even does. I liked how he did the little demonstration with the shrugs.
Yes.
You pick the wake up and you just shrug. He did like 4. Look, he's more of a man than me. He said, I think it was like 250 pounds he lifted.
Yeah.
He said, try doing like 10 to 15 reps of that, and it's like 900 pounds because back in the day, dude, like you remember, Animal was fucking jacked.
Well, they were both jacked as fuck, man. Both of these guys were just fucking, I mean, Jesus, pun intended, animals. They were both animals, dude. They were just ridiculously jacked motherfuckers.
Like at their peak. Well, what do you think they were benching at their absolute peak?
Oh, they were probably, I don't know. I have no clue. I'm not good at deciding what people can and can't bench. I'm not good at that.
Let me see.
I'm not sure.
I would say maybe. I would say probably between like maybe 500-600.
I wouldn't doubt it. Hawk.
I would even go up to 8.
Hawk maybe a little more. I think Hawk was more into the. Hawk looked like he had a little more of the roids in him. Just saying.
No, well, according to what was it Johnny Ace, Johnny Boy over there, Animal was bigger. He came back with the bigger body, but Hawk came back with the better body because Hawk was more streamlined.
Oh yeah,
but Animal was always he was thicker.
Oh yeah. They were both just big son of a bitches though. So I don't know. I'm sure they were probably benching at least that, dude. Those guys were fucking massive back then. Which, again, was another thing that drew people to them, is the fact that they were just so fucking massive. And a lot of the guys back then were big, but they weren't built like that.
Yeah, and it's like, a lot of guys, like, they were big. And like I said, the Road Warriors kind of like, would you say they started that trend of guys actually having to have bodies and physiques?
Maybe a little bit.
It was a combination of them and Hogan, at least. I would say split the credit between Hogan and the Road Warriors.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, because, I mean, back before that, it was just beer-gutted big dudes. And, I mean, Ric Flair was never a real body guy. You had Dusty Rhodes, who was Dusty Rhodes. A bunch of those guys. And you didn't really have the big fucking massive bodybuilder guys out there. And maybe, I'm sure this was definitely a fucking help to it.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the guys with the beer guts and that didn't necessarily look like they could fight were the better wrestlers, but it was by the 80s, you had to look the part.
Yeah.
You actually had to look like you could do some things, even if you really couldn't do some things.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It was becoming more of an aesthetic business.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. And being that they were some big son of a bitches and obviously were not anyone to fuck with, this is where Animal starts talking about them bouncing at a few clubs and bars that they're working on, that they were working at. The main one they talk about in here is a place called Grandma B's.
Yes. I'm sorry, bro. This is some of the stories coming out of here, bro, was hilarious. I ain't gonna lie.
Bro, Hogan used to get up there on stage and play bass, man. Hogan used to get up in here and play bass, and they're going through the whole thing. I swear, when I heard Hogan used to play bass, I'm like, God damn it! This must be where Metallica discovered him.
Like, Jesus, it's like even when Hogan's not around,
I know,
he always finds a way to get himself over on these fucking documentaries, doesn't he?
Dude, the guy, he doesn't even have to be there to get over.
Like, Jesus.
It's amazing, this man. He just, oh man, Hogan playing bass. That's fucking awesome.
Hey, look, say what you want about the guy, but he knows how to keep his name out in the public eye.
He does, man. He really does. Now, one of the reasons I have a lot of clips in here is because the stories that Animal is telling, I can't give justice to for me telling them. So I kind of have him so he can tell them in his words, because I'm not going to do all of these stories justice.
Yeah.
And this right here, Anthony, is where he starts talking about Eddie Sharkey a little bit.
Oh, yes. A hidden gem.
Yes, the hidden gem.
In his documentary.
Yes, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that real quick.
Eddie Sharkey was a bartender there. His claim to fame was training, at that time, was Jesse the Body Ventura. And when he told us about the camp, we all looked at each other and said, wrestling camp? Man, I don't know if I want to get in a wrestling camp. I know. I said, there's a lot of things I don't know in this world, but one thing I do know, a lot of guys on there, I can beat up, because that's all we were thought of. And that's all we were trained to do was to fight.
We used to watch wrestling all the time. We watched Vern Gagne wrestle and, Larry the Axe Hennig and all these guys, and we all wanted to be professional wrestlers. And so we kind of talked Eddie into training us in, too. And when we broke into the business, it was a little different than what everybody else went through. Eddie had an old church basement where they used to hold boxing matches, and this boxing ring was harder than the floor, let's put it that way.
All that it was railroad ties with plywood, with a carpet on top of it, with a canvas on top of that. Every time you hit the ropes on one wall, you would hit a cement wall. I got bone chips in my elbow to this day going through wrestling camp, where I'd hit the ropes and hit the wall with my elbow.
It was the worst ring you ever seen. When we first went down there, we thought, Eddie, this is the biggest rib I've ever seen in my life, But we ended up, he showed us the moves and we did everything. Pretty soon, we were doing everything that the guys do right now. I mean, flips and suplexes and everything on this ring. And every day we got out of that camp.
All right, and that's Barry Darsow. That's Barry.
Can we pause for a second, please?
I got the volume down. That's Barry Darsow talking right there about doing flips. Did you ever see Barry Darsow do a flip, Anthony?
No, but I'm sorry, dude. Like, when he said, we got to the point where we were doing everything that the guys are doing, flips and suplexes. Dude, I swear, I wish it was a camera on the premises when they were getting trained so I could get a visual of Barry Darsow doing like a Hurricane Rana or a Frankensteiner or some shit off the top rope.
Yeah, man. I'd like to see old Barry Darsow doing that shit myself. Big old gut of his.
Yeah. And another reason, honestly, we're playing clips is because wrestlers are like natural workers and entertainers with their stories. And you kind of got to like cut through a lot of bullshit to get to the truth. But my God, when some of these guys spin a tale, it's highly, highly entertaining stuff that neither myself nor Box can do justice to. So we prefer to let them tell it.
Yeah. There's just no way I could do some of this stuff right here. But then they start talking about Ole Anderson, how he came into Grandma B's and he saw these guys, how big they were, how jacked they were, and he decided to go to Eddie Sharkey's little camp, wherever it was. It sounds like it was a fucking a basement dungeon, but that's Ole went out there, and of course I'm going to go ahead and let them tell you the story.
While we're sitting down there in Atlanta, Ole said, get your stuff ready. So, I went and I talked to Mike about it. I said, Mike, trust me, I'll make some decisions on some stuff to where I kind of know where they want to be. They want us to be kind of bikers in a way. So I went and bought these leather chaps and these vests and these stupid gloves that had fringe on them and the biker hats. I felt like one of the village people, but it was a biker theme. So we went down there and wore that for a little bit until Ole, and I think it was Bill Watts, says, listen, we want to make you guys different than everybody else. And so Hawk comes up with the brilliant idea. Animal, why don't you have a regular mohawk, and where you have a mohawk, I won't have hair, and I'll have the double mohawk, so we look like we can plug right into each other. I said, oh, wow, great, not knowing that, 22 years later, I'd still have to wear the same haircut, you know what I mean?
All right, so there we go. That's pretty much it. That's kind of how the Road Warriors were born right there. Just Ole Anderson, once again. We saw a lot of these guys back then in the business, and didn't know, especially being young, my age when I was watching this. You weren't even alive for some of this, Anthony. But I had no clue how much they really had influence in the business, bringing guys in, getting guys started, and shit. Looks like Ole was the guy that broke these guys into the NWA and got these guys started, basically.
Yeah, and you got to figure back then, it's not like it is now where you can just go on the internet and find a wrestling school, give somebody $1,000 and they'll show you whatever you need to know. Right. Back during this time period, wrestling was like a secret society. You had to it was like by invitation only. And even then, you still had to earn your stripes, and you literally had to let them beat the fuck out of you. You had to earn your way into the business. I mean, I think it was Flair who said he literally didn't know what the deal was 100% until his first match, until he was in the ring.
Right.
That's how far they would take it, because when you got into the business during the time the Road Warriors would have got in, they didn't necessarily smarten you up to, yeah, this is all a work. We don't really hurt each other.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I still
don't think anybody ever truly smartened the Road Warriors up based on some of the stories we're going to get into as this thing rolls on.
Yeah, I still think it's real to them. Definitely. And we do find out the name did come from the Mel Gibson movie Road Warrior. That is sort of the characters that are in those movies, and so that is where their name came from.
And it's actually pretty cool. What I did kind of like was the little backstory that Animal gave on the haircuts, because they have, like I said, the Road Warriors. Like everybody now is very, very much has a cookie cutter look model. The Road Warriors were a totally different animal, and I like how he kind of got into the backstory of the haircuts, because I was always kind of curious about that myself.
Yeah, a little bit.
And the logic behind Hawk's logic, you could say it's a little goofy, but I actually like the logic. We plug into each other.
Yeah.
We go together.
Yeah, we plug in. I like that. Sky Genie has a good point. Barry Darsow did flip from Smash to Repo Man. Awesome to a career death. He's got a point there.
Yeah.
So we all have seen him flip. Obviously not in the way it should be, but whatever. From there, they kind of get into the story where you got a couple of guys, I believe JR and a couple of them were talking about how a lot of guys weren't sure if they were going to make it, because they were basically just, first of all, beating the hell out of people. And people, like job guys, were legit scared to go in there and go against the Road Warriors because they had a reputation for actually hurting people.
And honestly, like, you notice like how quick they kind of like got that big push, right?
Oh yeah.
They literally got belts like their second, third match in. Now, do you think if social media was a thing back then, that the Road Warriors would have got hate mail? They would have got hate tweets. You're pushing these guys too fast. You're giving them too much too soon. Because if you think about it, that's what made them. You could say they got too much too fast, but at the same time, I don't think they would be as finally remembered if they weren't pushed out of the gate as fast as they were.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were pushed extremely fast. I mean, and they talk about that even in here. They talk about how quick they were pushed. They were almost immediately thrown out there with some of the, bigger guys. And nowadays it would be ridiculous. I wouldn't even want to hear what people said about them nowadays. Fuck that, dude. Social media is just ruining this not everyone needs a fucking voice. Remember how you used to tell people, you used to be like, man, I never have to hear that guy say another word again. Yep. Now you got to fucking listen to him type. You got to fucking listen to his words no matter what. But, anyway, that'll bring us right into the next clip, Anthony. What do you say about that?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Here we go.
And our partners, and I just met Arn Anderson. And the Road Warriors, they play their song, and the Road Warriors come in, they do their whole deal, and the crowd's going nuts.
And these two monsters came walking in with the Mohawks.
And I looked at Arn, and I said, Arn, I just met you. But I said, I ain't getting in the ring with these guys. And he goes, you think I'm going to get in the ring with these guys? And that was the first time I met Arn. And we both stood outside and looked at these guys.
We wrestled the Road Warriors for 10 days, and it was absolutely the worst fist fight I've been in my entire life.
These two
Okay. That was the line I wanted out of that clip. Just remember, with Arn Anderson is kayfabe in all these videos.
Yeah, dude. I have all the respect in the world for Earn.
Yes.
But he had a tendency. I think he was the worst on the. I think he was at his absolute worst on the Horseman DVD. Everybody's out of character, like, you know, because like it was 2007 by the time that shit came out, so everybody was pretty much the horse was out of the barn for a lot of people. They like, fucking people know what the deal is. Yeah. So they didn't insult people's intent. But you got Arn on a documentary talking about this shit, like, yeah, man, I didn't know what was going to happen in the match. Oh my, they were these big, intimidating bruisers. They would get in the ring, and I honestly didn't know if I was going to walk out with my life.
I like it though.
No, I mean, I get it.
I like it.
It's putting them over, but dude, it's kind of jarring.
No.
To have people talking about shit in the shoot context, and this guy over here kayfabe and everything.
Speaking of shoot, shot for you, Anthony.
Yes.
Ooh. Oh, I just had dinner, so I had to let it settle before I did that. Ooh, that went down hard. Anyway, after this, we get JR. Once JR gets a little balls on him in this and starts talking about how these guys are really powerful but awfully limited in the ring.
Oh, JR.
I mean, they were strong as hell, but really didn't have much in the fucking toolbox at all. But
oh, are you saying that we had glimmers, we had shades of a smart ass JR that we talked about on the AEW show from this past week?
Most definitely we did. After that part, we do get to see draws. This was, this was really, when did that happen to draws, Anthony? I totally forgot it.
It would have been about 5.5 years before this, where he had the injury.
Wow.
So okay. It would have been like 5-6 years. And, I mean, I'll be honest, man. Like, were you a fan of draws? I mean, look, I'm not saying he was going to be a superstar, but on like a mainstream level or anything like that, like Austin Rock, but man, it was something about that guy. I mean, there was a lot of untapped potential that I wish we could have got to see kind of like play itself out. Even if I wasn't a fan of the guy, he deserved better than what he got at the end there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely believe that. I actually think Draws could have done something. I think they would have gone through a few character changes with him, but I think definitely he might have still been doing this shit today, man. But I mean,
and we'll get to that later because it's another JR-ism that I want to get to, like with Draws, but we'll say that when we get to it.
We're going to get into the other one who was a little bit douchey on the show. Lawler right here starts telling a story about the time that Hawk no-sold a pile driver. And you could tell that Lawler was like still pissed about it, even telling the story. He's like, yeah.
Even after so in other words, even though the guy was dead and gone, it was years and years had gone by, you could tell he still had to get his receipts in on the guy.
Yeah, exactly. You know he was still pissed about it. He's like, oh man, to this day I want to kill that motherfucker. Yeah. You could definitely hear in his voice, he's like, and no one had done that to us ever, son of a bitches. And but we do get.
Should we mention that he was teaming up with what's the guy? He was on the NWA Power show. Austin Idol.
Austin Idol, that's right.
A young Austin Idol makes an appearance on a WWE release.
There you go. Very quickly, but yeah. There's that. Now we get into a little bit of the LOD talk a little bit here, which is the next clip I'm going to go to. Like I said, these clips are going to fly because of the run sheet I got here. So here we go.
A Legion of Doom started forming. Who was a spoiler? King Kong Bundy, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Paul Ellering and the Road Warriors. Now, Hawk and I and Ellering called ourselves the Legion of Doom anyway. You know where we got that Legion of Doom from? From a Super Friends cartoon. Meanwhile, back at the Legion of Doom.
Road Warriors indeed. Dangerous adversaries. Masters of mayhem, no question about that. Part of the Legion of Doom.
Well, it became the two of us when Jake had left and went to the other part of the NWA, which is up with Crockett Promotions. And the spoiler left and went to Canada. They kind of saw the writing on the wall. The Legion of Doom was starting to shrink. And so here we were left with Ellering, Hawk, and I.
It's been survival of the fittest, and the Legion of Doom, as you can see, has survived very well. We alone
All right. In just a minute, we're actually going to get into a lot more Paul Ellering talk because this is kind of where basically this is where we kind of hear exactly what Paul Ellering was, Anthony. We hear he was more than just a on-screen manager for these guys here.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. He was basically he was a shoot manager, meaning that he would handle their travel. He handled their bookings. He helped them negotiate contracts. He basically was almost like a road agent type for him.
Right.
He made sure they was good on the road, took care of everything for him. Whereas a Bobby Heenan type would literally just be your manager for that show. Once the show's over, all right, see you tomorrow. Let's see you next week. See you at the next see you in the next town.
Right.
And go your separate ways. They literally were joined at the hip, and I really felt like it added like a layer of credibility to what they were trying to do on screen.
Yeah. Now, Anthony, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Paul Ellering. Now, you had Animal, who could obviously talk. You had Hawk, who could obviously do the same. And Paul Ellering as their manager. Now, you had two guys who could talk. I hear a lot of people. I'm not one of them. I personally loved Paul Ellering. I thought Animal would talk, Hawk would talk, and then Ellering would put a bow on everything they just said. I loved Paul Ellering in the group, but I hear a lot of people always thought he was just useless because those guys could already talk and had said everything already.
I feel like he added to the package. I feel like he added, if this makes sense, he added a layer of professionalism to the presentation. He came across like the evil genius who had two Frankenstein monsters. You know what I mean? You needed somebody to basically summarize everything that they just said, because Animal would come in, do his thing. Hawk, it would be funny as hell, but sometimes it would kind of be like, the fuck did he just say?
Yeah, huh?
And then you had, like I said, because Paul Ellering, and he comes across very well in his documentary. You could tell this is a straight-laced dude, very intelligent. You needed a guy like that to kind of come in and summarize the point. Like he said at one point in the documentary, he basically was there to summarize everything you just heard. Like the main selling point of the match they needed to get over, they would end it with that. And I feel like he added a lot to the Road Warriors presentation.
Okay. So I completely agree with all that. And we do find out, they do tell you in here that Paul was actually an incredibly smart guy, a member of Mensa. He was always reading the Wall Street Journal and actually was active in the stock market at that time. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't easy to be active in the stock market at that time because it was that stock market was incredibly up and down at that time.
Yeah, and I love Jim Cornette tells a story at one point about Paul Ellering. Like, oh no, it might have been Michael Hayes or Jim Cornette. He was the first guy that they saw in the back that was actually reading like the Wall Street Journal, whereas everybody else might have been reading porn, like I would have been, or some shit like
or
that.
Something, yeah. I think that might be in here.
There. He's actually a cultured dude.
Yeah.
I mean, like honestly, I always wonder sometimes what a regular person would think about in a wrestling locker room. I mean, even though Paul Ellering himself was a wrestler, he was like a very straight-laced dude, kind of like Ricky Steamboat. You don't hear too much about Ricky Steamboat.
Right.
He was a pretty straight-laced. I always kind of wondered what the straight-laced dudes would wonder, like just sitting back in the locker room, shooting the shit, like being surrounded by all that insanity. Guys doing God knows what, especially during the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Especially that you got guys running around hopped up on cocaine, ribs, women, God knows what else.
Yeah, we get into the partying. We do. I have a couple clips to play about partying. Don't worry about that, Anthony.
You had brought up earlier, I wanted to give Sky Genie some credit here, and I want to get your opinion on something real quick. So I hear that the Road Warriors made an appearance in Memphis and refused to do jobs to Lawler and Dundee, so there has been heat there for years. Now, obviously we've established that the Road Warriors were pretty much pushed out of the gate, Goldberg style.
Right.
Do you think that, hindsight being 2020, knowing what we know now, do you think that having them be so dominant for so long hurt them on the back end of their careers? Because they never really evolved past beating the fuck out of people, and then as the style changed, they always felt like out of place once it became more about back and forth and you got to give the other guy a little bit, but then it almost kind of diminished the Road Warriors because they started to sell too much, and it's like it took away from what made the Road Warriors the Road Warriors. Like the Road Warriors don't sell, and all of a sudden you see him in there selling like Steamboat.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think another thing I took away from him when and they even, I don't have the clip, but they when they went to WWF and they had him doing comedy stuff, and you know, even when they were in the barber shop, oh, what a brush. Come on. I think that killed him too. It humanized them a little bit, which they weren't supposed to be. These guys were supposed to be these fucking, you know, post-apocalyptic crazy motherfuckers.
And you know, so you don't agree with Jim Ross's point about he actually kind of liked that the WWE not humanized them, but it added like another layer to their character, so they weren't just like 100% ass kicker serious all the time.
Yeah, Jim Ross. Yeah, it was probably payday, Anthony. He probably had his check in his pocket.
Like put the WWF portion of their careers over above anything else.
Got my check today. Better make sure I talk good about these sons of bitches. Anyway, yeah, another layer. Layer. No, I don't think I hated it. I hated all the comedy with those guys. Now, as far as, you know, in the ring, they really wanted to protect themselves no matter what cost. So that might have actually hurt them in the long run, especially in some of the territories, because, I mean, even in this, we get a little glimpse of how their attitude was piss poor, which was one of the reasons I think they were booted out of AWA, I think they say in here. I think that clip is in here. But,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because, Vern Gagne, don't want to speak ill of the dead, but Vern Gagne in his day was a piece of work. Yeah. And he was used to having his way. I mean, which, you know, is his territory, so I kind of get his logic there. Yep. But he wasn't, the Road Warriors were very no nonsense, in your face guys, and he wasn't used to guys saying, no, I'm not doing that. And these guys are younger, stronger, jacked up, and he might have quote unquote shooters on his roster, but they were also aging shooters. And the Road Warriors were fucking gassed to the gills.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to send old ass Baron Von Raschke in the ring. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to shoot on these boys. Like, I don't think it'll be as easy as he thought it was going to be by that point. Maybe if it was 10 years earlier, it'd be a different story. But by this point, no, the Road Warriors were pretty much dominating anybody you put up against them.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a little bit of that, but we definitely get into some Paul Ellering talk here. I'm glad we agree on that. He was a useful tool for this. So for them, here we go.
Business, you know, long time before we ever got in the business. In fact, he was trained by Eddie Sharkey too.
Yeah, bleached blonde, precious Paul Ellering, and he was really going to be a talent, and all of a sudden, he destroyed one of his knees just really, really badly.
And Ole at the time said, you know, you're really good on the mic. He says, have you ever thought about managing? I automatically said, yeah, I've thought about it, because years ago, even before I was in this sport, I had a premonition dream that I was going to be a wrestling manager. And that was going to be my forte in this business. And I wasn't even in wrestling yet. I don't know how the mind works, but it was a premonition dream.
So there you go. Paul had a little a vision almost. And
a premonition dream.
Yep. Obviously came true, because in my opinion, he is one of, we got Jim Cornette on here, you know, another great manager, but I think Ellering was one of the greatest. I liked his style of talking. He was with two tough guys and talked like a tough guy.
Yeah, and like I said, he just fit. He complimented. It's almost like, you know, I think it's kind of funny when people say who's useless, who adds to one act. You know who? I want to get your opinion, since this is from your era, since we're talking about it anyway. The Horsemen. You were a Horseman guy when you were growing up, right?
Yep.
Do you think? What do you think about J.J. Dillon's part of the Horsemen? Because you had four guys that could talk,
right?
That could work. That didn't really need a manager per se. Do you think he added anything to the overall package of the Horsemen, or do you think he was just kind of like there along for the ride?
No, I think the same thing. I think he added to it. He was the same kind of guy. And he was doing the same thing for those guys. He was booking their flights. He was booking their hotels. He was making sure the luggage got there. He was doing the same thing. And those guys needed it because all they were doing was partying. But
Good.
I mean, really, that's all they were doing was partying. So, but I definitely think JJ added to him once again. Those guys would talk, and he would wrap it up like a businessman. You know what I mean? Exactly what I liked that. The Horsemen needed a businessman running their crew. I think it was definitely good, especially at the time, especially for the time when, I mean, if you looked in the audience, people were wearing suits. People were coming straight from work right to these wrestling shows.
Yeah, and I gotta say, you talk about sore thumbs. Obviously, they always say the original is the best version. At one point, and this is one thing that I love about the documentaries is the clips of from back in the day, 80s, 90s, because that's my time as a fan. They have they're showing the clip of the Horsemen, right? You got Ric Flair dressed to the nines with the shades. Yep. You got Tully Blanchard dressed to the nines. Arn Anderson dressed to the nines, and you got fucking Ole Anderson in a damn I look good t-shirt in his wrestling type. Like, I don't know, dude. Like that. I mean, look, I get that's the original version of the Horseman, but whenever I see clips and Ole's a Horseman, it just like he really sticks out like a sore thumb. Like one of these does not look like the other.
No, but I mean, he was just he was the country boy muscle for the team, I guess, for the Horsemen at that time. But yeah, you're right. It always did look a little weird. I think the next clip is a little more Paul Ellering talk here. See, let's just go ahead and play it instead of fucking sitting here and wondering. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Two Rottweilers right behind him. And in addition to being the on-camera manager,
Paul took care of Animal and Hawk's business needs behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, their contractual negotiations.
At that time, Ellering was your manager's manager. Not a fake manager. Ellering did our plane tickets,
their cars, hotels.
The last thing you would want is for an angry Hawk and Animal, after the airport has lost their luggage, to go up to the Hertz counter and negotiate a rental car. Not a good scene.
He did their wrestling strategy.
Arranged our matches.
He helped them manage how they did their budgets.
I mean, he used to graph and chart futures investments. I mean, that was his hobby on the plane. We would look, and he would have 3 rows, all these graphs and charts, and he's got his protractor and his compass and his, his miter and everything out there, doing everything.
He was the brains of the whole outfit.
All right, well, Animal just made him sound like he was a carpenter. But
no, but I mean, like that pretty much. I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude right there to Barry Darsow at the end when he said he was pretty much the brains of the operation.
Yeah.
And literally, and look, this is, I mean, just hear how Animal talks throughout this documentary, and you hear how Paul Ellering, and you get why he was their shoot manager. You get why.
Yeah.
Because just imagine, and this is not saying anything about anybody's intelligence. I'm not saying they were dumb guys, but just imagine Hawk and Animal negotiating a contract versus Paul Ellering negotiating on their behalf.
Well, it would be like Brock Lesnar negotiating his own contract. Not sure how that would go either. You know what I mean?
I want this shit now. No, what he meant, sir, was
let me tell you exactly what he meant. My client, Brock. All right, okay. I would love to be in a negotiation with those two. I'll tell you the truth, though. I really would.
Michael Andaloni. I would pay money to have seen Paul do the things Animal just described with the protractor and the compass and shit.
Yeah, he's a carpenter on a fucking airplane. Now, JR has a point. I would not want those two guys being pissed off and going up to fucking rent a car either. That's definitely something I would not want to see.
Look, and did you notice the look in JR's eyes there? He looked like a guy that was going through PSD. Like, yeah, it's like that's a man that saw some shit in his lifetime in the wrestling business.
Yeah, he's like, I've seen it, and I never want to see it again.
And I love how they had the music going too. Yeah. He said, "It's not a good look," and he said, "Not good at all." And then they got the music in the background. You got JR just looking there, like he's shaking his head like a war veteran, like, "Yeah, man, I done seen some shit."
Yep, exactly. And we go from that, and this is where they start talking when they left NWA, went to AWA. And the kind of what I want to talk about here is they talk about how during the territory days, if you weren't happy or if you were getting stale, you could just go to another company. You could just do that.
It's basically like it's what's hurting WWE now. It's almost like it's what's hurting WWE now, because it's like nowadays when WWE signs a guy, you're just there until they kind of like get tired of you being around, then they let you go.
Right.
Whereas back in the day, if you had been working somewhere like say 6 months to a year and you were starting to get kind of stale, before you got to the point of no return, you could put in your notice, go somewhere else for 6 months to another year, come back, and it's almost like you got a new coat of paint on.
Right.
Exactly. And I really feel like wrestling could benefit from wrestling. Honestly, looking back on it, really benefited from having that territory system set up to where guys could go multiple places to learn and become better.
Yeah. And like I said, there were many reasons to go. Your character was getting stale, which they weren't. They just weren't actually happy there. And it was great that you could just go to another place. And I mean, at one point, they even say in this DVD, people wanted them. They could have gone to a ton of other places, and they just decided to go back home and work for AWA in Minnesota, back in their basically hometown. So, this is actually where, speaking of, you mentioned Baron von Raschke, this is actually where they talk about their AWA title match with Baron von Raschke and the Crusher right here. I think that's part of the clip I got. I guess we're going to find out again.
Hey, first the Warriors ruled the NWA champions. Now we come to bigger and a better and more competitive wrestling circuit, the AWA, and now we're the world champs. You people, you fat people, sitting getting drunk, eating potato chips in front of the TV show, watching Happy Days. Look at these belts. They're the Warriors, and they're never coming off our waist.
You've got to dare to be different to get on the map. They were so in your face, and in the ring, they knocked the shit out of you. I mean, they would knock you down. What you saw was what you got, and the fans could feel that. That's one thing you've got to always remember. You cannot bull the fans. They feel you or they don't feel you, and that's up to you.
All right.
Jesus. It's up to you.
Well, I mean, obviously Michael Hayes likes being felt. I mean, we know that.
Jesus. Sound.
You feel me? Oh, man.
Hey, if you want to know how to molest somebody, talk to Michael Hayes. You got to make them feel you.
Yeah,
that's up to you.
It's up to you to make them feel you. And don't worry, we've got some Freebirds talk coming up. I promise you. We got some Freebirds talk coming up in just a couple of minutes here.
Oh, Box, did you notice? Did you keep tabs on how many times Michael Hayes had to get bleeped out in this documentary?
I think it was. I think there's a couple more.
Yeah.
There's a couple more. He must have done a couple shots of wild turkey before the show, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, this dude was dropping F-bombs.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Like,
he didn't care.
You could tell, like, I don't know, man. Neither one of us obviously never met the man, but I get the sense that he had a good time during the filming of this documentary.
Yeah, probably. They probably did. They definitely probably did. We go a little bit here into the match they had with the Crusher and Dick the Bruiser.
Oh yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, do you have a clip lined up?
I don't have a clip lined up for this, but I got a clip lined up for the Freebirds talk.
Oh yeah, because Cornette really added like a lot of insight.
Well, here, hold on. I just passed it. Hold on 1 second. We back up just a bit. Here we go. You want to get to the Cornette part?
Yeah.
Here we go. I got it right here. I think this is what you were talking about.
Vern Gagne's top team, Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher, had been on top for 30 years, and they looked the part in their day, but when these guys came along that were bigger and stronger, and Bruiser and Crusher are the baby faces, and the Road Warriors aren't selling anything for them, and they're just beating them up because that's what they did.
Very first move that Hawk and I did, it's kind of a funny story. Here are two guys that really never left their feet in 25 years of wrestling. The first thing we did then when they came in the ring is I gut shot at one, kicked the other one in the gut. We press slammed them over our head. And I could hear Crusher and I could hear Bruiser going, "What are you guys doing with us?" And Hawk goes, "Anything I want," and slams him, I've never seen anybody get so red in the face.
It hurt Bruiser and Crusher in the eyes of the people. But let's face it, they'd been around for 30 years. Their time had come and gone, and the Road Warriors were what's new.
All right, this is kind of what me and you were talking about earlier, Anthony. You got these two guys who, at the time, had the wrestling body, and they were really just two fat, beer-gutted dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got these two guys that come in there that are fucking bodybuilders. That's exactly what they were. They were fucking bodybuilders. And they go in the ring, and they look like fucking two skyscrapers next to a fucking, storage unit, a garage. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's like back then, back then people didn't care about, wrestling. Like I said, the minority that cared about actual good wrestling, bell to bell, was very small compared to what it is now. Mm-hmm. They wanted guys that looked the part. And Bruiser and Crusher, they might have been the better wrestlers, whatever, 20, 30 years in that area of the country. But the Road Warriors, like I said, they were younger, they were stronger, and they looked the part of what fans wanted out of their wrestling at that time.
Definitely. And Michael Andolini is trying to figure out what is that jolly pirate music in the back. That is polka music, and that is what Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher used to come out to, was polka music back then. So that is what that music was in the background there, to explain that to you, sir. Anyway, Anthony, time to talk about the fucking Freebirds, man.
Oh yeah. Shit. I'll take shit that you couldn't do in 2019, Alex. Because are we going to talk about the stars and bars? And
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Jesus Christ.
We'll get there. Let's just start here.
The Freebirds were the most revolutionary tag team of the last 25 years, bar none, because they were the first cool heel.
The Freebirds, myself, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts, were the first to use a rock and roll entrance and rock and roll outfits, and that was breaking a lot of barriers in the late 70s.
Coming from the South, bringing out the stars and bars, the Skinnerd music, it was almost a national anthem for young males from the South that wanted to see these long-haired hippies kick the shit out of the establishment.
They had a tremendous amount of charisma.
Why don't you mess with the boys from Bad Street? Because we are Bubba Bad to the bone, and we do drink alone, and nobody tells us what to do.
What a tag team. They were synonymous, typical Southern hillbilly type tag team.
All right. Now, did you catch the two George Thorogood references there, Anthony? I bet you didn't.
No, I did not.
All right. The Bad to the Bone, George Thorogood, and We Do Drink Alone. He also made a song called I Drink Alone. And when I drink alone, I prefer to be by myself. That's what he says in the song. That's the lyrics. I'm going to go ahead and keep playing the clip. I just wanted to bring up that I caught those because I'm weird like that.
Some of the best matches I remember with the Road Warriors, and maybe they weren't the greatest technical matches, but putting asses in seats. The biggest one I remember was the big fight at Kaminsky Park, and I believe it still holds the attendance record. And that was the night, I believe, that we decided to do for the first time, we were going to answer their face paint with our own type of face paint, which is like we painted our faces like the rebel flags.
So there you go, Anthony. There's the one you were talking about.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not even nothing about anything racial. That was just like, did you ever see the Freebirds with their faces painted like the rebel flag? They look fucking horrible.
They do. They look very weird. This was in 1985, so I don't remember watching this. I don't think I've ever actually seen the AWA Superclass from 1985.
Yeah, it's actually on the network. I
Really?
think that this is like probably one of their last big shows before they really started to fucking circle a drain around 86, 87, and then eventually went out of business. So this is probably one of their last peak years, 85.
Yeah. All right. But once again, if you look in the crowd, you got some people in suits that look like they just came from work. You got some people that are there. You got a ton of different people in the crowd, but the ones in suits are the ones that I always For some reason, I noticed them because I'm like, these motherfuckers like literally just like walked off Wall Street and just said, fuck it, let's go see wrestling. We're fucking coked up and drunk. Let's go do it.
And dude, I gotta point out, man, I gotta give credit where it's due. No. Michael Hayes made a very good point there.
Okay.
About, the wrestlers, they might have not been technical masterpieces or anything like that, but they drew money. There was an ass every 18 inches. And I feel like a lot of times people forget about that. I mean, nowadays, wrestling's from an in-ring standpoint has never been better. Mm-hmm. But you don't get that same thing. Did you hear that crowd?
Yeah.
You said you saw men in suits.
Yes.
You saw all kinds of people. You didn't just see regular folks like you and me. You saw business people going crazy over basic ass shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like seriously, you don't think Vince McMahon would give his left nut for a crowd like that today?
And remember, that show was in Chicago, and they took the fucking stars and bars and painted their face with it. Now, again, I don't want to get into a whole thing about that fucking flag. Whatever. It is what it is. It's pretty much banned everywhere anyway. So that again is what it is. But that was ballsy. Even back then, that was ballsy.
Even by 80 standards, think you give him credit?
In Chicago in the 80s, that was still, even though Dukes of Hazzard was still on, it was because they got that on top of their car. It was still ballsy. People still had a little problem with that flag even back then. Listen, I remember my sister put one on her car when she went to high school, just thinking it was a cool thing to do. We were in the North Carolina in the South, and it got ripped off the second day.
Ah.
Yeah, and yeah.
No damage to the car, right?
It was a convertible, and they ripped the top with the plate and shoved it into the seat. So she had to get a new top for the car. But, so I mean, it was, and that was like 89, 90. So still problems even back then with that flag. But, those were obviously good times. Michael Hayes had to put over the fact that he holds that attendance record. Of course.
Hey, look, dude, the number one rule in wrestling, always put yourself, anytime that camera's on, you put yourself over. You get,
yeah.
He comes from that school of thought, man. Like, whenever that camera's on, bro, you got to put yourself over.
Got to do it. And Michael Andolini has given us the information on where this place, where that was held, that Super Clash. Comiskey Park, not there anymore. It's actually the parking lot to the new field for the Chicago White Sox. So is gone, like every great place really is at this point. But from there, Anthony, they stop talking about the Freebirds and they go into the match with the Fabulous Ones. And once again, I can't do some of these stories justice. I must play them, and here we are.
The Fabulous Ones, Stan Lane and Steve Kern.
Vern and the powers that be pulled us into the bathroom, and they said, we want you to drop the belts.
And Vern goes, guys, we want you guys to pull the switch thing. I said, what do you mean? Well, one of the Fabulous Ones is going to get knocked down. Referee's going to take you back. They're going to pull the switch. You guys are going to get tricked. I said, Vern, we're street fighters. We're supposed to be street smart punks that you can't trick us. No, you got to do this.
We go out to the match, and they're introducing us, and we're saying to them, we're not going to do it.
But Steve Kern had a habit. He wouldn't pay any attention. While the referee's giving the instructions back in those days, he's looking around at girls in the front row, and Stan's kind of flexing and everything, and the Road Warriors walk up to the center of the ring while the referee's talking to him. Animal says, we're not going for the finish.
And they're looking at each other saying they're not going to do it. They don't really understand.
Here came the Road Warriors, and they start beating the piss out of the Fabulous Ones.
Finally, that's it. They threw a couple chairs in the ring.
We grabbed chairs, start swinging, bam, bam, bam. Fabulous Ones jumped out of the ring. They come back with chairs, double DQ. We went back to the dressing room. Gagne comes in all ticked up. What are you guys doing? I said, what do you mean? I said it was the right thing to do. The people wanted it that way. They wanted to see us go crazy and stuff. That's what we did. We gave them what they wanted to see. Nobody's changed the finish on me in 25 years. Nobody does this. I said, well, we just did it,
And I told the guys,
There you go. There you go. Great story right there. That, and again, this is something we already talked about before. they protected themselves, and obviously Ellering just admitted to basically telling them that's what you got to do sometimes. So Ellering was obviously a big part of this too.
Now, Box, where do you stand on that?
Back then?
No, back then, whose side do you take on that argument? Because obviously, Road Warriors during this, they were pretty much AWA's top tag team at this particular point in time. They basically, the role Hogan would have had as their top drawing act,
right,
basically went to the Road Warriors.
Okay, yeah.
So where do you stand on that? Do you think they made the right call? Because they basically went with their guts, and it ain't the time for us to do any type of job.
Yeah.
But the owner of the company would say, no, I want you to do it this way. And they said, okay, fuck that. We're going to do it our way.
Well, put it this way. If you look after that match, there was actually trash being thrown at them. So, yeah, I would say they did the right thing there. And he's right. It's what the crowd wanted them to see. Now, even Animal said, one thing at the end of that little, right at the end of the clip, they were trying to do what was right for the business at the time. That shows how much, as much as they are portrayed as kind of just a couple of meatheads, he did have a good understanding of the business and what people wanted, especially with the fact that they went ahead and did with what the crowd wanted to do.
Yeah. And I gotta admit, it was kind of like, from Animal's perspective, I got where he was coming from, where basically Gagne, I guess I don't want to say it was a double cross, but he was trying to make them out to be stupid. Like, their whole gimmick is they're street fighters.
Right.
Which means they're street smart. So they would never go for, this one, they look alike. They're twin. No, they wouldn't go for some shit like that.
It was twin magic, Anthony.
No, no.
It was twin magic.
No.
Oh my God. It's twin magic. Look how big. Wait a minute. Her boobs are not as big. What the hell? All right.
No. I think that was Gagne trying to get one over on the Road Warriors with that one.
I think so too. Now after this, Anthony, they get into another tag team that I actually loved, Ivan and Nikita Koloff. This is after they basically leave the AWA because they kind of got fired for that shit. No, I'm sorry. They quit. They ended up quitting and going back to NWA. They did not get fired. I believe they quit and go back to the NWA, and they start doing a thing with Ivan and Nikita Koloff. Now, Nikita Koloff, Anthony, I've told the story of, when I went to Dorton Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina when I was a kid, and when that's actually who was up against the Rock and Roll Express.
Nikita Crush.
Nikita and Ivan Koloff. And Nikita is the one that, what I didn't know is my dad knew him very well. Nikita Koloff is the one that, growled at my dad, and my dad said, "Oh, don't fuck with me." And he walked away like he was sorry. Again, didn't know it was a work till I was in my mid-20s.
That's awesome.
It was.
Now, did your dad, break kayfabe for you? Because he wasn't really a Russian, right?
I didn't know that back then, dude. I don't even think I was 10 years old at the time. You know what? I must have been 10 or 11 years old at the time.
I mean, he got like ingrained in the culture of it, and I think he actually changed his name, so he pulled the Warrior. But no, I think his name is Scott Sampson or some shit like that. But yeah.
I mean, after I remember all that, and I was like, oh, but I knew it was fake by that time. But yeah, it was pretty cool seeing. And obviously, I mean, Nikita, you could tell that accent was a little over the top. Over the top. Don't worry. I think I have some of that accent here anyway. You know what? Let me see something. Where are we here?
And we should also point out that this is the feud that unofficially turned them babyface.
Yes.
Because at this point they had been aesthetically they had been heels, right?
True.
But they had always kind of been cheered. But they were still heels.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
This feud with the Russians is essentially what turned them. And what I liked about it, and they made it a point to point this out, they didn't change a thing. The only thing that changed was people's perception of them. But they didn't change a thing. Their in-ring style didn't change. And I think JR basically summed it up best. People gravitated to these guys because they was big, jacked up dudes. Yep. They never backed away from a fight. They would fight you to the bitter end. And there's something about that. Even if you don't like a guy, that's admirable. It's the same kind of thing that got Austin over.
Right.
Even as a heel, he would just fight to the bitter fucking end. And it's something you develop a certain respect for somebody that just will never quit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And, it was good to see another guy like Nikita Koloff, who was this big, jacked up bodybuilder out there, too, at that time. Because, Ivan was a little aged by this time.
Yeah.
Ivan smiled a lot. I think he was pretty high a lot. That's my opinion. Ivan was always smiling, no matter how angry Nikita was. You always saw Ivan over there with a little perma smile on his face.
Hey, dude, yeah, like we can't disrespect Ivan Koloff is a legend. Rest in peace.
I agree.
This is the dude. He ended Bruno Sammartino's first legendary epic title run, and I think it was 1971.
All right, true. And by the way, I love the tiny belts. I got it. I love the tiny belts. I do, man. I wouldn't mind if they just had one tiny belt back again. It'd be pretty cool. It'd be really old school. I wouldn't doubt if NWA was a company that threw one out there eventually.
Now, Box.
What?
Since we're talking about the NWA real quick, were you a fan? Which version of the NWA title did you like better? Did you like the Globe, or did you like Big Gold?
I like the Globe.
Really?
I do. I'm a fan of the Globe one, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. That surprised you there a little bit?
Yeah. Personally, look, don't get me wrong. I feel like that one is probably a little more prestigious, but in terms of like visually for TV purposes, I was always a fan of Big Gold.
All right. Well, 10 pounds of gold, I guess. Anyway, we were talking about Nikita and Ivan Koloff, and let's go ahead and get a little bit of Nikita.
Oh, yeah. You got to go through all the wire. Try Uncle Ivan. Try Treasure. Try Nikita. It's no matter. For the Bible, you all go down.
The Koloff was very interesting. Ivan Koloff, his record speaks for himself, and what a great guy. But when Nikita came in and dominated the scene, it gave the Road Warriors and the fans, more importantly, a matchup that they wanted to see.
You Road Warriors going to find out that Nikita is ready. Yes, Nikita, he doesn't have to go out and say a lot of words. He does his actions in the ring.
Nikita played his part so well. He didn't speak English for 2 years. And through his Russian dictionary, he started learning Russian words, chitota, and all this other stuff. Thank you, and Uncle Ivan, As soon as Hawk and I wrestled them, it was like we were representing the USA. Those guys were representing the Soviet Union, and it was just the rest is history there. You could figure that one out. Everybody was going to back up, especially in the Mid-Atlantic area, was going to back the USA guys over the Russian guys.
You get up every morning. You go to work and you work your day, and then you go home. You've worked for everything you've got in your life. Well, the Legion of Doom is no different.
Ivan Koloff.
All right, there we go. We don't have to do any more of that. Basically, we get into exactly what you talked about, to where this match made them baby faces, not purposely. The crowd just got so behind them, they had to do it. They had to fucking turn them. And we also hear JR and Arn talk about how strange it was to see two big bruisers, like, again, the post-apocalyptic kind of guys, as baby faces. It was just very strange to them how that could happen. But Animal even said, I'm sorry to cut you off back there, Animal even said back there, Anthony, that it was just a time where people were really thinking that the bad guys were the cool guys.
Yeah, if you really stop and think about it, it's not really surprising they got over as fast as they did with people, because, like I said, people like winners. And if you pretty much put it to you like this, the Road Warriors rarely cheated as heels. They would literally just come in the ring and emulsify people, decapitate people, pretty much at will. They didn't retreat. They never surrendered. And it's pretty much easy to see why people gravitated towards them. It's like the same thing with the Horsemen. Mm-hmm. The Horsemen, even though they were heels, they were cool. Think about it. What young red-blooded American male wouldn't want to be Ric Flair in the 80s? Well, guy comes out on TV, dressed to the nines, talking about banging different chicks every night, drinking like a fish. What man wouldn't want to live that lifestyle?
And again, if you've ever watched that Horseman DVD, one day they just walked out and there were guys in the ring, or I'm sorry, in the audience, in suits, just like Flair, with the glasses and everything. So, I mean, you're right. Even back then, it was a time for the heels to be the cool guys, and the babyfaces not so. I mean, they were still the babyfaces were and will always be, have their side of the crowd. But I liked heels too, man. I was I was not a huge Hulk Hogan fan back then. I liked Andre, but I wasn't the biggest Hogan fan. I liked a lot of the heel guys too. Like I said, I loved the Koloffs. I thought they were fucking great. I loved Nikita, especially after what my dad did to him. So,
All right, look, dude, you only like Nikita because of Rocky IV, bro. I feel like it was a missed opportunity not doing like a fucking getting Dolph Lundgren in to make an appearance.
If he dies, he dies.
That would. I'm sorry, dude. I mean, that's one dude that needs to make some type of wrestling appearance before all is said and done with him. Somebody needs to sign that dude to like a Legends deal, something.
It'd be nice. Now they briefly, Anthony, get into the Crockett Cup where Ronnie Garvin and Magnum TA take on the Road Warriors, and then briefly, literally, it's less than a minute that they talk about that. I don't know if you caught that or noticed.
Dude, it's Ronnie Garvin. We don't. Look, all due respect, we don't need to spend that kind of time on Ronnie Garvin.
I wish. All right, you 100% agree. I wish they had spent a little more time on Magnum TA. How's that sound? I really do, because I was actually a fan of Magnum TA. I was a Magnum PI fan. I've always been a Tom Selleck fan. Let's be honest here.
So obviously so you were pretty much devastated, like a lot of people were. Mm-hmm. You were devastated when the accident pretty much ended his career.
Yeah, and I remember that. I actually remember that. That was in the newspapers. That was even in the newspapers in North Carolina. You got to remember, North Carolina back then was a territory, so my dad would always read that part because I loved wrestling so much, and he would always read that part of the newspaper and tell me.
So you lived in the area where he had the accident, right?
I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I spent 16 years in Raleigh. Yeah, I'm sorry, 10 years in Raleigh. 10 years, 6 to 16. I lived in Raleigh.
Wow, that's fascinating to me. So that means you pretty much were like in the midst of that storm of when this was a real big. Obviously, car accident is always a big deal, but for wrestling, that was a huge deal because he was Magnum TA. It might be funny to some people now, but back then he was pretty much a big deal. He was being positioned as basically the Crockett's answer to what Hulk Hogan was doing up north.
Absolutely. He was, dude, he had they were about to stick that rocket up his ass.
Yeah.
And he was about to get the push of a lifetime. That was their plan with him. He was about to, and then he got into that accident. I think he was driving a Porsche, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember my dad reading that in the paper and telling me about it. And I was like, oh my God. And then I think I remember him doing a promo, and he was still on crutches, and his leg was still fucked up. Pretty devastating little thing. But dude, I was 10 years down there from 6 years old to 16 years old. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, right there in the middle of it. My dad ran the packaging company, and he ran the Raleigh office and he ran the Charlotte office. That's where he knew a lot of these guys were next door neighbor. Nikita Koloff was next door neighbor to one of his salesmen in Charlotte.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
That is how my dad knew him. He was at that guy's house. They were having a barbecue, and Nikita Koloff was at the house.
Oh shit! Like, please tell me he was in character. Please tell me he didn't.
I don't know. I never met him.
That would have been amazing.
My dad did not bring me around those guys. Those guys my dad worked with were friggin' just absolute crazy. My dad did not bring me around them very much at all. Rarely.
The stories, Jesus.
Trust me, I've heard stories afterwards. I could definitely get into it one night, but we're trying to stay on track here, Anthony. And since we did mention promos, that's actually the next little segment, because this is a little segmented up, this little DVD here. The next segment is actually about some of their promos, And what the hell? Let's play some promos here.
I will tell you something, punk. We were so bad that we were giving our mother kidney punches before we were even born.
Their promos, you know, weren't an artistic success in the sense of, wow, that was clever. But they didn't need to be clever. They didn't try to pretend to be clever.
Nobody give me the wrong words.
Animal would say his few little words, and then he'd go to Hawk, and it'd be,
and let me tell you something. They're all going to pay the Road Warriors way.
And he'd rattle this stuff off. He was very, very quick-witted man.
When we get done with you, we're going for family members, boys.
Mike Hawk would always add some off-the-wall color thing. He never knew till he got there. Mike was very good like that.
Hey! It's no secret that I'm a few bricks short of a full load, but I got just enough bricks to know one thing, and that nobody besides us deserves a title shot more than us.
And Joel, he was hard-nosed, and we're going to beat these guys type thing.
Dead men can't feel pain. Kevin Sullivan, I guarantee all the people out there, and especially in our hometown of Chicago, no matter what it takes, we will get you up. And when 16,000 people are cheering for us to rip your head off, we're going to do it. We're tired of you. Get in our face. We're going to get rid of you once and for all. Tell them, Paul.
I would try to always summarize the point that made the match draw money.
You know, Bob, the cards are dealt. It's time to play out the hand. And the bottom line is, you got to go against this man, the animal. You got to go
All right, so there we go. Basically what we talked about earlier, Paul Ellering wrapping up the whole thing, summarizing everything like he just said, with the Wall Street Journal in his hand, of course. But, I mean, Anthony, you can see me over here smiling. I really, this is the era, I mean, God, I miss this era. And I know I sound like an old piece of shit right now, but this era, those promos, absolutely just, I don't know, it brings me back to the time when I was a kid watching this stuff, and I just can't help but sit here with a smile on my face. And yes, I'm a little stoned, but that's got nothing to do with nothing.
No, man. Like it just, I don't know, man. It really kind of like paints the picture of how it'll never be that way again for a lot of reasons. Because wrestling at its core works better when it was almost run by outlaws. Back then, guys they were legitimate outlaws. They were, as Hulk pointed out, they were a few bricks short of a full load. But that's what made wrestling great. Nowadays, it's just so sanitized, so corporate, and everybody are reading off of teleprompters and scripts, and nothing seems organic anymore.
It's
like literally, like back in the day, like you literally had guys that literally had like all of these weird personality quirks that were a little off that got into wrestling. Nowadays, you just got model types, and that wrestling thing sure looks like fun. Let me give it a try.
It almost seems like now it's not just produced, but overproduced. You know what I mean, Anthony? It's just, there's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we can sit here and say, oh, they should get back to the old kind of the grainy, the stuff that we were just watching, the TV. Listen, NWA is trying it. They've got it in fucking Ultra HD. I like it. They've got the studio wrestling back. So if you really do want to see that, you can still see it. It's great that we can still go back and see that. I know it's a new show, but I'm liking it so far. So, but definitely, like I said, I mean, I'm sitting here listening to those promos, and I just can't help but sit here with a smile on my face listening to those two just go off. And you know, those were unscripted promos, Anthony. Totally unscripted.
You could tell they didn't include it here, and maybe at the end of the show, it'll give me time to look it up and we can play it to close it out. There's a promo where Hulk, he basically implies that he's going to rape Ric Flair. That's fucking amazing.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, he's clearly hopped up on something, but the verbiage was hilarious. And it's one of those things on their best day, there's not a writer or producer in wrestling that could script for a guy like Hulk. That literally was all him, bro.
Absolutely.
And it was good shit too, man. Like Michael Hayes said, he was a quick-witted guy.
I don't think not one of the three of those guys could you have scripted a promo for. No way, no how. But to keep flowing in this, Anthony, we now go on and we get a little more Jim Cornette, and we're not going to get into any of the Jim Cornette bullshit that happened or is. We're not getting into any of that. We're just going to talk about Jim Cornette and the Road Warriors.
Yes.
And this is where we hear about the scaffold match a little bit, Anthony. Let's go ahead and hear it.
About 5 weeks before Starrcade, the Road Warriors had a Japanese tour scheduled. So most people didn't get to beat up the Road Warriors, but on TBS one day, the Midnight Express comes out with a loaded racket and whacks Paul Ellering and whacks Animal in the back, and Bobby Eaton comes off the top rope with 2 knee drops on his back, and we beat the Road Warriors up, and people had never seen that before. So they went to Japan.
By the way, can I point something out real quick?
What's that?
Jim Cornette, did you hear when he talked about the Midnight Express? He basically even put himself in the third person. The Midnight Express came out there. We had a loaded tennis racket. We took him out. You hear how he used the verbiage in there? He literally took a whole group. He third-personed himself into just...
Hey, but look. We have to give credit where it's due. A lot can be said about old Corny, but he shines in situations like this. The man is an encyclopedia of wrestling history.
He is, and I love hearing Cornette talk. And again, he is the announcer on the new NWA. So check it out on YouTube. NWA Power 3 R's RRR. So here we go. Let's keep going with old Corny here.
Midnight Express, we get a big surprise. You ain't ever gonna forget, right, brother? Hey, the surprise is good for us. And bad for you.
And before they went to Japan, they had shot this footage.
You people out there, you take a look, and especially you, Midnight Express, you hit a bang. What's that say? That says lover boy. There you go, Dennis. We're gonna show you what happens when you fall off a scaffold.
They were throwing the pumpkins off the scaffold, and they were smashed into a million pieces on the concrete to illustrate what was going to happen to our heads. The reason why they wanted the scaffold match is Cornette can't interfere. We know he's scared of heights. So it's just going to be Hawk and Animal and Bob Eaton and Dennis Condrey, the Midnight Express, on this scaffold. And the only way to win is to knock your opponents off to the ground. But it was the most famous match in the history of both of our careers. During that Japanese tour, Hawk cracks a bone in his lower leg.
It was promoted all over, and gosh, we wanted to do it, and so we were apprehensive going into this thing, can we carry it off?
And Hawk had just broke his leg 3 days before in Japan. He cut the cast off in the locker room, and I took athletic injuries in school and college, so I taped up his ankle real hard, put his boot on, and he had a slight limp. But he climbed up that scaffold like there was nothing wrong.
Okay, this man climbed 30 feet into the air on this. Okay, first of all, Anthony, let's just be honest here. Nowadays, they would not let him do that. Number one.
Yeah, for obviously humane reasons, and also it's just not, with all of the tragedies that we've had, that we've seen, that have happened in the ring. No fucking way they're gonna have, especially a dude that big.
Yeah, absolutely.
25 feet up. Fuck that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just no way that would even happen. But this was a crazy match. It was the scaffold was 3 feet wide, 30 feet in the air. This was definitely not the smartest match they ever did. I mean, Jim Cornette, when he fell, he blew out one of his knees horribly. Both of his knees, you're right. Just got completely fucked up, both of them. And I mean, this was a dangerous ass match for back then, especially for back then. But they pulled it off. Somehow they pulled this match off, and it did go down in history as one of the craziest matches I think I've ever seen. I've actually gone back and watched this match more than once, believe it or not.
Yeah, and it's not spectacular from the standpoint of because, and in fairness to all, four guys, it's not much you could do on a fucking 3-foot scaffold. You're not going to be doing crazy shit up there. So I feel like if people want to say, this was negative 18 stars, no, you try doing a match 25 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
So I tend to cut the guy some slack, but I will say, you mentioned the Cornette spot that, I mean, it's not funny that the guy blew out both his knees, But when he's swinging up there, right, and you got Bossman or Big Bubba as he was known back then, just kind of like wait for him, and then Cornette just drops, and Bossman you feel like he's looking right at him, but I guess because he had the glasses on, he kind of misjudged how much space was between him and catching Cornette. It was just fucking hilarious. It was hilarious, dude. I'm sorry.
I don't know. When you just saw Cornette, he felt like a sack of potatoes, just hit the fucking ground and dropped. You knew he was pretty bad. Right here in the middle of this video, though, is right where they kind of, and literally right in the middle, is where they get into a little bit of Hawk's drinking and partying. So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip right now. And funny, it starts with Michael Hayes.
A lot of partying. A lot of fun.
Every night that you gathered after an event, at a bar, at a hotel, or at a club or a restaurant, was another adventure.
It got pretty wild sometimes, you know. We closed the bar down for sure, and with Ric Flair there, they were getting the waitresses were getting $100 tips most of the time. It was just entertaining as heck.
It was a real wild, wide open time, fast lane, and it was everything to the excess, everything. Booze, other stimuli, women, it was always to the excess. Especially down south, it was a lot more wide open. You know, be on the road 300 days a year, maybe more. Playing one-night stands 300 days a year. So there was more money to go around. And some guys handled it very well, and some guys didn't. Hawk and Animal were like brothers. Brothers can be very different. It was as if Joe was the older brother. When decisions had to be made about travel or a hotel or logistics, Joe was the older brother. But when it came time for after hours, Hawk became the alpha male. After hours, he was the man.
Hawk was
There you go. So obvious, and you know, we get into a lot more of this into later in the video. I was a little confused why they had to bring it up now and then bring it up later, but they sort of kind of told you about it when it was just the evolution of the career is why they sort of brought it up. By the end, I was like, oh yeah, that's why they brought it up.
They kind of wanted to set the table for what they were going to get into later, because I guess they probably felt like you can't just say, talk about, it was great. Oh, by the way, he had a bad drug problem. Mm-hmm. So I guess they wanted to kind of like set the stage for, like, you know, the 80s, you know, the era of excess. And like he was, you know, he never learned, you know, he was always like up. And then eventually as he got older, it started to catch up with him, and he never kind of grew out of that.
Right. Exactly.
Or he did, but it's kind of like an Eddie Guerrero situation where he was clean by the end, but by that point his body had said enough, and it just gave out on him. Yeah. Exactly, man. 100%. And we will, again, that is later in the DVD. We're not that much, believe it or not, there's not that much left in this whole thing here. And now we get into, the Horsemen, Arn, Ric Flair, and the Full Horsemen. Once again, I can't do half these stories justice, so here we go.
Feud between the four of us and the Road Warriors, Slash Nikita, Slash Dusty Rhodes, any number of guys, but the greatest rivalry. They just performed a lot better when somebody was out there on the same page and enhanced them and their look.
It was the crowd and the Road Warriors against the Horsemen, and it worked. The Horsemen were great tacticians, and they were one of the few combinations that could put the Road Warriors in jeopardy and put the Road Warriors in the fans' mind in physical harm. And anytime an antagonist has that ability, they're normally going to be very successful.
The Four Horsemen, their style fit the Road Warriors.
Flair's in the wrong corner!
There was a difference in styles. They could make the guys really look good, and we could make them look good just by the difference in style.
Jesus, listen to that crowd. And that was a good point. They were different styles, but first of all, it's always funny to me to realize that Little Tully was making Hawk sell moves. But they're right. I mean, you did have, look, Arn was a big dude. Tully was a jacked up little guy, so I guess it does make a little bit of sense. And you had
Tully could. I mean, he was a smaller guy.
He definitely
in comparison
could
to the Road, but he could definitely work. And once he actually worked, like look at the feud with Magnum. Magnum dwarfed him, but still they had fantastic chemistry and matches.
They did 100%. But obviously, I mean, the Horsemen were just amazing, no matter what, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you know, we will definitely get to that Full Horseman DVD one day.
Yeah,
100%.
And I love, and Flair made a good point there too about they worked. You know, they were at their best when they were in there with guys who were on the same page as them.
Right.
He basically was saying that as long as they had guys that were willing to work to their strengths and, you know, focus on like work around their limitations and work to the things that they did well, put over the fact that they were big, powerful, jacked up dudes.
Right.
The matches would be great. But if you had guys that were kind of going to go against that grain, which it's not a part of the documentary, but I kind of wanted to get into some of their matches with the Steiners where that was basically the opposite of these Horsemen matches.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into those. I think they are somewhere in here, aren't they?
It's like a couple of things, but you can say that for once we get through the documentary.
All right. We'll get rolling here. All right. Let's see. Next clip, and then I do want to play that. I wasn't going to, but I'm going to have to play it. So here we go. Let's start with this.
The feud between the four of us and the Road Warriors, Slash and the...
Oh, wait a minute. Wrong clip. Sorry about that. I meant to play. Let me back up here a little bit, because I just really screwed that up. Wow. I'm way off, Anthony. I'm way off. So
just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. I was actually going to get right now is where they're going to start talking about Dusty when they stuck the spike in Dusty's eye. Yeah, you remember this where they literally took the spike off of their shoulder pads and jammed it in Dusty's eye.
The angle that got him fired from TBS.
Yep. Now, I wasn't going to play the promo from Dusty. But Anthony.
It's Dusty, bro.
It's Dusty. You give me 1 second. Let me find it. I'm just a couple of seconds away from it. And I'm going to go ahead and play it. I don't care. We're actually making good time. Like I said, we don't have a lawnmower just drove past my house. Anyway, here we go.
I'm breathing. You understand what I'm saying? You should have got it done. It's violence for the sake of violence. And now I will turn it around to my violence, my lightning bolt, my fire, my thunder. An eye for an eye.
Dusty was the booker for the end of.
God damn.
Dude, over 30 years later, I was like, seriously, dude, I was popping like crazy. I was like, damn, I need to see this match now.
I know, man. I want to see this match right now, dude. I'm ready.
Like, seriously, dude, like, when's the last time, I don't care whose TV it is, what promotion it is. When's the last time you saw a promo that, like, got you, like, you felt literal goosebumps?
Oh, man, Dusty could cut him. And see, once again, man, I love the yelling, the screaming promos. God, we've gotta go back just a little bit. Just a little bit. You know what I mean? Some things can work when you go back to basics. You know what I mean, Anthony? Now we get from that little part there from Dusty, they go to the Road Warriors, and we're in WWF. We're actually in 1990 right now, and they talk a little bit about Jim Herd. And from there, I got a clip real quick. So here we go. Let's run. Here we go.
We're in the WWE. These guys were pretty well polished individuals, and they knew what it took to be successful, and they had a good run there.
Very impressive, to say the least, the debut of Legion of Doom here on Wrestling Challenge. Wayne, I would say look out all other tag teams.
Well, they're a big top team. They're vicious, they're strong, they're quick, and obviously they don't care. Look at their haircuts.
It was a conscious effort on our part to say, hey, man, maybe we come in there and we can help this company, we can help each other. And that's the only title we haven't won. Let's go in there and see what can happen. And if they think we're capable of carrying it and carrying the load and carrying the ball, we can do it.
I think they became more entertaining in the WWE than they were in their previous territories.
What a brush.
I got that check in my pocket. Yeah, check's in my pocket. Uh-huh. It's a good one this week.
Anyway, since we're
I love the comedy stuff when Hawk was out there talking about brushes. That was great shit. Great shit.
Now, Box, I have to put my Rain Man hat on for a second since we're at 1990.
Check's always clear. Go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry.
This was my introduction to the Road Warriors. So this would have been a couple months before they left the NWA for good and went to the WWF.
Right.
So WCW had a Clash of the Champions. I'll never forget this one. Clash of the Champions 10, Texas Shootout. Okay. Uncle had a tape. So my first exposure to the Road Warriors was on his tape. They had a match with the Skyscrapers. This would have been the Skyscrapers version .2. It would have been Dangerous, Danny Spivey, and a guy that went on to do jack shit in wrestling, Mean Mark Callis. You may or may not know who that is.
Oh man, yeah, I do. Go ahead.
Whatever happened to that guy?
I don't know.
So
I really thought he had potential. I really did. I thought that kid was going to go somewhere, Anthony.
Yeah, he was just another redheaded ginger that thought he was going to do some things, but no.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were building up a match for I guess it would have been a Wrestle War, something like that. So they have a match that goes to a non-finish, and fucking Spivey beats the dog shit out of both Road Warriors with a chair. Like literally, he broke the chair. It was a steel folding chair, and he literally broke this thing to smithereens on the bodies of the Road Warriors. Some of the stiffest chair shots you will ever see.
Jesus.
It's actually it's still on YouTube, but I still had the live I still had it on VHS, like that live recording of it, and my God, he laid that shit in. Wow. Like you never people talk about they accuse the Road Warriors of never selling. They sold this shit.
They were probably fucking actually hurt. That's why they sold that shit.
Yeah, because Spivey is one of those guys. He's like you hear different stories about this guy's tough, that guy. He's one of those tough guys that kind of fly under the radar.
Right.
But he's a badass in his own right.
Yeah, exactly. Anthony, now we get into Demolition a little bit. Now, I've been vocal enough. I was never a Demolition fan. I thought they were 100% a ripoff. I thought they were awful. I didn't really like either guy. But I also didn't realize until this DVD came out that they were all friends. Didn't really matter. I still don't like Demolition, and I thought they were a cheap ripoff, but I'll always be a Road Warrior guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I get that. And look, I get what you're saying, but this is where it's kind of like, back then didn't put that kind of thought into it, but knowing what I know now, they've really left a lot of fucking money on the table with Road Warriors and Demolition as far as a feud.
Yeah,
they really did, because I look at it like this. Yes, the Demolition, they did start off as an imitation of the Road Warriors because at the time Vince couldn't get the real thing, so he created his own version. But over time, Demolition got over in their own right, and they became their own thing. And when the Road Warriors finally come over, it's almost like, well, Vince was like, well, I got the real thing now. The hell with these guys. And he just literally kind of pushed them to the side. And I felt like that was kind of dirty. That was kind of slimy. Like, at the very least, get some mileage out of a legitimate feud. Because, like I said, for tag teams, that was almost like the equivalent of Hogan Flair during that time period. You're leaving money on the table out of spite, and that's kind of slimy to me.
No, I definitely agree with you. And I mean, they even admitted on the video that this feud did not go as it should have, as planned, or any of it. So, and I think that might be in the clip I got right here. But yeah, this is where we get a little bit of Demolition and all that good stuff. And Clip. Here we go.
So they're probably one of the most copied teams of all time.
You had your Demolitions come along.
There was a lot of animosity when Demolition was in WWE and the Road Warriors weren't.
Do I feel that Demolition copied the Road Warriors? No, I don't feel that at all.
They can say they didn't, but I mean, I think it was obvious to everybody that they were copying or emulating the Road Warriors.
Whenever anything is really successful, you're going to have carbon copies, maybe not quite carbon copies, but definitely elements of what you do will be picked up by someone else.
The talk in the profession was there was a Road Warrior ripoff.
That's what drew the common interest, because here was the guys that were painted up like the Road Warriors, and here's the originals, and people wanted to see them clash, the Clash of the Titans kind of deal, and everybody wanted to see us triumph.
They've come here to the World Wrestling Federation with only one thing in mind, Ray.
Yeah, to kick some people around.
They want the gold currently around the waist of Demolition.
Now we're going to be able to go in and face Demolition, prove our point. Who's the real Road Warriors? And now we're going to prove a point. The Legion of Doom, or should we say Demolition imposters, spikes and paint all over face. Well, we're going to get the paint right off that face.
You know we should be flattered, but we're not. You stinking Demolition wannabes.
Simple mathematics. What you idiots don't know, there's 3 of us and only 2 of you.
I think the main difference between Demolition and the Road Warriors is that we were really 2 street kids that fought our way and made it in the wrestling business. Where,
all right, let's stop there. Barry Darsow, come on, seriously, dude. No, I didn't think we were rip-off at all. Come on, man. Come on. Did you have your check in your pocket too?
Well, this was pre-lawsuit. Remember that.
You're right.
No, but like I said, dude, like, I don't know, man. First, I don't have it in me to shit on Demolition. For one, you got to give credit where it's due. They had badass theme music.
No. And by the way, those 2 trying to wear the same outfits now, they've got to stop that.
Look, I don't need to see Accent Smash wearing the S&M gear in 2019 is a sight that I don't need to see.
But go online, you'll see it, and you will hate me for it.
No, I'm good with. I'm good.
You
I'm
sure?
good on that.
I mean, it's there, dude.
I'm good on that. You know, I'll watch a clip from them in their prime when that shit fit better.
All right,
and was more appropriate.
Would you rather look that up or watch Greek?
All right, let me check my phone here. Google search Demolition.
Anthony,
2019.
don't worry. You know what? I won't put you through either one of them.
No.
I won't put you through either one of them. Don't worry about it. If I ever do Grease, I will do Grease solo. If I ever have to do Grease, I promise I will do it solo. I will.
I'll put it to you like this. I will do an episode of Grease with you if you will do a review of one of the greatest of all time on this show, Bret Hart. We'll review the Bret Hart documentary.
All right, we'll talk. We'll talk after the show. Now we get Anthony into the Nasty Boys feud. With the Road Warriors and the Nasty Boys. And this would be their WWF. Don't get fooled that they're calling it WWE the whole time. It was WWF. This was a little bit of this. And of course, this is something they sort of just spend about 1 minute and 40 seconds on. And I mean, this was their first title. And they don't.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm just saying. I don't know if it's because they hate the Nasty Boys or what, but they spent very little time on this first title run. Go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry.
No. I was going to say, like, this title, when, you know, to kind of like go back to a point that I made at the top of the show, solidified the Road Warriors as the undisputed greatest tag team of all time, in my opinion, because by this point in time, they had completed the trifecta. Mm-hmm. Of being the NWA, AWA, and now WWF tag team champions at a time when those 3 titles meant something. When all 3 of those titles meant something, the Road Warriors held those titles. And literally, like I said, they were the Hulk Hogan of tag team wrestling. They could literally go anywhere in the country and be a main event. They can go anywhere in the States and be a main event.
Absolutely.
And sell a place out. They can go to Japan, sell a place out. Like, and to me, there's not too many tag. You could say, oh, the Rock and Roll Express, they were better workers. Could they sell out a 20-seat thousand arena like the Road Warriors can? I don't think so. Like, literally, like, I don't think it cannot be understated. It cannot be overstated enough how much the Road Warriors drew money. Like, these guys were a license to print money.
Absolutely.
And for the tag teams, you have not, I would say can you think of a tag team off the top of your head that merchandise wise is comparable? The only tag team that I could think of off the top would be like the New Age Outlaws, but they were more of a package deal with DX.
Right. Outlaws and DX. Exactly. I could see them being up there with, but I don't think surpassing a Road Warriors. Dude, if there was Road Warriors merch back in the 80s, holy shit. I mean, and there was. You could get posters and shit like that back in the 80s. But I don't know if they kept track of that stuff or not. Because honestly, I know that because I had a fucking Rock and Roll Express poster in my bedroom. So, anyway. But,
yeah, you don't want to.
Oh, don't worry.
You don't want to go dig too deep on that one, do you?
Oh, don't worry. I had plenty more, and I had a signed Paulina, the girl that was married to the guy that just recently passed, the guy from the Cars, the model. I had a signed picture of her up in my room, poster. I had another model. Don't worry, man. I had plenty more in my room.
Well, we stay pretty much on track, but I got to ask you this real quick since you brought up since we've been talking about the Rock and Roll Express a little bit tonight.
Okay.
Is it admirable or depressing for you that after all of these years, Ricky Morton, God bless him, is still holding on to that mullet?
I love it. Hold on to it as long as it can. Now, we get into their entrance here, and since the wife's in here changing the baby, I'm going to go ahead and play this clip of them talking about their entrance. Here we go.
Yo, what a rush. Yeah, I always remember that from their WWE days.
When the music hit and the Road Warriors burst through those curtains, the word that we use in the industry is the pop. The crowd pops. In other words, they explode.
Well, listen to the explosion here, Brain.
You knew conclusively who was coming out when you heard that music.
It was almost perfect. I mean, the look, the fireworks, the music. It was so intimidating. You just couldn't help but be impressed by these guys.
If I'm not mistaken, it was usually Animal who would make the comment of, "Did you hear the pop we got?" And that was kind of snickered at by the rest of us because obviously, yeah, we did hear the pop you got. And when you get a pop like that, 9 times out of 10, you ain't got to tell nobody about it because it's unmistakable. Oh, no.
All right. I think once again they were trying to point out Hawk's attitude and arrogance a little bit. In this clip, I'm not sure if you agree with me on that.
Or you mean Animal?
Well, it was Hawk that would always say that. They said he would come back. Did you hear that pop we got?
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
We obviously we reviewed Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior,
mm-hmm.
and this was during a time period where Warrior wasn't on the best terms with the company.
Mm-hmm.
Hawk. They established was a bit of a rebel, bit of a hothead. He had his issues with different promoters.
True.
They get into some of the heat that he had with Vince at different points. Even though to his credit, he did try to I guess when he was of clear mind, sound mind and body, he would always reach out and try to make amends, especially towards the end when he was trying to get everything right.
Right.
But do you think that they were trying to throw in subtle little jabs at which once again, it is kind of shitty to throw in jabs on somebody that can't jab back. So I mean, it's like I think the difference here is they were subtle. They were subtle with it because the guy did pass away, and I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think the heat with Warrior it didn't exist there with Hawk so much. It was like on a lower level, but it's like they always find a way. If they had any type of beef with you, dead or alive, they find a way to get shots in.
Yeah, they really do. And yeah, they did take a few subtle shots here at Hawk. Animal didn't. I don't think Animal took one at all. Animal seems, I got to tell you, and I mean, Animal doesn't seem like the same guy still today after Hawk's gone. I really don't think he is. I think Hawk dying took a piece of him with him. And I wouldn't blame him, man. I mean, think about these guys grew up together. They were together from the time they were before 8 years old. I mean, they grew up in Chicago. They went to Minnesota together. They were bouncing together. They were wrestling together. These guys were basically brothers. You know?
And yeah, I mean, an Animal, all due respect, I think it's becoming more and more apparent that, I mean, obviously the Road Warriors as a package were fucking amazing, but Hawk was about 95 to 99.9% of why they were over. Like, I feel like he was like the spark of the team. Cause if you notice in the 80s, you'll remember they tried to separate them at different points. And it was always, Hawk going for the title. Hawk was always getting the title shots against Flair. Right. And I feel like had Hawk been able to keep his shit together, he could have been a single star. He had the in-ring. Put it to you like this. He had enough in-ring ability to get by. And if he was in there with a good opponent, they could accentuate what he did well.
Yep.
The promo ability, like I said, they weren't necessarily like, oh, that was clever. They weren't artistic, works of art. Like, oh, that was clever. But they served their purpose, and they were funny. They were entertaining.
Yep.
They were engaging. People got with them.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a big component of what got that team over.
No,
I
agree.
I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Like, Animal served his purpose. He added his portion to the team, but Hawk was the heart and soul of the Road Warriors, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they said before Animal was kind of the glue of that team, but I think that was more in negotiating. I think Animal kept Hawk there longer than a few people wanted to, and that was insinuated a few times in the video.
Yeah, the problem was not with Animal, but I feel like I look at it like this. Animal was almost like the babysitter.
Yes.
He kept him in line on the road. That's basically what they said without saying multiple times. That I think at one point, which we're actually coming up on in a couple minutes here, when they separated, when they split for a little time there, Jim Ross made it a point to say Hawk, during those years that he was separated from Animal, that wasn't good for him. Right. It's almost like he lost his conscience because left to his own devices, Hawk would run amok, and God knows what he would be into. Whereas when he was with Animal, he would still do his shit, but Animal was able to keep him in line. And he even said that them reuniting was the best thing for Hawk because it not only added years to his career, it added years to his life. Because at the rate Hawk was going, if that split had stayed, we might have lost Hawk a lot sooner than we did.
Exactly. I can't argue with any of that. But let's go ahead and go with another clip, Anthony. We're here at WrestleMania. And let's go ahead and do this.
For whatever reason or another, my partner was not exactly totally on the up and up going to the ring. And he drove the Harley too close next to mine. I could not get off next to the wall because I was too close to the barricade. So I had to get off on the opposite side of the bike that you're not supposed to get off of. And my right calf stuck to the muffler. And my tights stuck to my calf. Ellery's going, what's the matter with you? I said, nothing. I said, look at my leg. And I had to do the whole match like that.
All right. I thought you wanted to hear that funny story. Now, Anthony, have you ever ridden a motorcycle? A Harley?
No, I have not.
Really?
Have you?
Yes, I have. I love motorcycles, actually. I grew up riding dirt bikes. And, I have ridden Harleys. And, you're supposed to get off left side. If you do get off on that right side, that's what will happen. You will burn the shit out of your leg.
Which is basically what he just said happened.
Exactly. And I have had that, it's right on your calf. It's right on the inside of your calf, and it hurts so bad.
So basically what he mentioned there was, well, basically, you can relate to that little story that Animal just told there, huh?
Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. It is absolutely one of the most painful things you can get. And I used to get them on dirt bikes. I had a little, I had a CR80, a little Honda CR80. And this thing, it was a nice little bike. I liked it, but I couldn't ride it in shorts. Anytime I rode it, no matter how careful I was, I'd fry my leg. So I don't think I've worn shorts in almost 25 years. So
now, would you agree? Because this that clip you just played, it was from I want to say it was SummerSlam '92, Wembley Stadium, 80,000.
Yep.
Now they basically make it a point of saying like this was the peak of the Road Warriors in the WWF. Do you think that was a fair statement, like in terms of like their popularity, crowd reaction, the whole nine? But I gotta say, the shoulder pads, they're more famous for the red ones, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But the gold ones, the gold and black ones they were rocking here are fucking sweet.
Yeah, definitely. I like these ones. They were almost like looked like they were damn near on fire. But definitely cool. And Anthony, they do get into Hawk's drinking problems starting right here. We are sort of getting to the end of the video. The last few clips are going to go a lot faster than you guys think. So
a lot darker, yeah.
A lot darker. This is going to get a little bit dark right now. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip just a little more. Like I said, it does get into a little bit of and even they started talking about him now because when you hear Animal say that, my tag team partner wasn't on the up and up going to the ring on the motorcycle, implying he had been drinking at least. You know what? Implying he was fucked up. He didn't imply he was drinking. He implied he was fucked up in one way or another. I don't want to put words in Animal's mouth there, but let's keep playing the clip and go from there.
Any more popular on any one more night than they were that day in Wembley.
We went and we did the match, and after the match, Mike being Mike, he just disappeared, and he ended up, on some back street somewhere.
It's not that he would sit there and wake up today and say, hey, okay, well, how messed up can I get today? He never had that conscious thought, but he also, if somebody said, Mike, let's meet at the bar and have a couple belts or something, he would be willing to please and be a buddy and everything else, and one thing would lead to another. And if he was with the wrong guy, it would go a different path. There's your typical, muscle relaxers, Vicodins, Percodins, cocaine, basically, any type of new thing that will come about, guys would try it.
Can it make it easier? Being a star, is it more prevalent? Is it easier to obtain drugs? Is it easier to get hooked on something? Yes, if you let it. It's not the business, it's you.
It's one thing to sit down with your buddies and have a couple of beers. It's another thing to sit down with your buddies and drink a case. And then drive to another bar and drink another case. There's something wrong with that equation. So Hawk was known for his excesses.
All right. I want to bring something up, Anthony. They talk about that, but then they'll talk about Andre doing it like it's a joke and it's funny. Oh, Andre could drink like 3 cases in a night and be just fine. So, as much as he's got a problem. Andre had a problem too. I know on a little bit of a different story. Andre had a lot of pain, this and that, but
his the giantism disease that he had basically led to him having a drinking problem because he had to cope with a lot of pain. And as much as you want to make jokes and Andre was he was an alcoholic,
big time.
Clearly, big time. He was a big dude, so it would take a lot for him to get drunk. Right. But just because he could drink a shit ton of alcohol and before he started to feel it, doesn't mean he didn't have a problem.
Exactly. But obviously, to get back to here, this is obviously where we start getting into the drinking problem and drug problem. You know what? Let's just say it, the substance abuse problem of Hawk. And usually when a guy has a problem like that, his body starts to deteriorate, and Hawk must have had it pretty under control at times to just look the way he did, But I will tell you, when they're showing that clip at WrestleMania and they're showing him standing on the ropes, when he's standing on the first rope with his arms in the air, he looks fucked up.
Sorry. Oh, you mean the SummerSlam match? I got you.
Yeah. The SummerSlam match. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He looks. He almost looks like exhausted. Yeah, I get what you're saying. He looks kind of exhausted and almost like defeated.
Right, and I think that's why they used that picture, because he did. He looked both. And this is actually where we'll keep continuing, and this is where we get to the next clip where he's actually he leaves WWE. Here we go.
Wrestled a match that was supposed to be a tag, and it was actually 2 against 1 against the Beverly Brothers. It was out of that match there that I got a double suplex put on me, and I landed the wrong way where I couldn't feel my legs. And finally, I felt the burn coming back, and I ended up hurting 2 or 3 discs. So that's when I took some time off, and Hawk took off and went to Japan by himself. When Hawk first left for Japan, I was really irritated with him. He wasn't just damaging the Road Warrior legacy and everything else, which was the least important at the time. He was damaging my family and my income and my support for my family, too. I wasn't so much against him doing it. I was against him going without asking me to go.
Now, Anthony, I paused it real quick. I'm going to play a little more of it. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead. He seems really hurt more than irritated when he's saying this. I don't know if you catch it. I kind of do. His body language and everything. It seems more like he's hurt. He was hurt when Hawk decided to leave and try to go over to Japan and do that. I understand he brought up the whole, he was taking money off my table and this and that, but it's, and just from what he says here, I really feel like he was hurt that Hawk would try to make it without him, Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like, your buddy. And it goes beyond that. I mean, because they're not blood relatives or anything like that, but they grew up like brothers. They got into the business at the same time. They were fucking gym rats together. They did the whole bit. And it's like, you almost feel like you're getting stabbed in the back here. Like, dude, like as many times as I went to bat for you, this is how you repay me?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly where I think he probably said it and they cut it out. But that's exactly where I think he's coming from.
Yeah, dude. Like, we understand you're a little hurt, and we might be digging a little deep on you here, but the guy is dead, so
yeah,
we don't want to get accused of like shitting on a dead man here. So yeah, we're gonna have to do some creative editing.
Yeah,
here.
But I think you're 100% right there. I think that's exactly where he's coming from. I think that he's just all the times I stood up, and I mean they even said he kept him in the business longer. And then he goes and does this. So yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of, hurt. I'm sure there was irritation. I'm sure, anytime there's hurt involved, it eventually turns to anger. So I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, on the flip side, I know you say, we can sit up here and say, well, Animal kept him around longer than he probably would have been. Cause they always say like the issue was never with Animal. He was always a pro. And I always got the vibe from Animal that he was a clean living guy for the most part. He might have did his shit here and there, but it was never to the point of where you would see him stumbling around somewhere. Or like he's on like one of those dark alley, one of those back alleys, trying to score a hit. He wasn't one of those guys. He was able to keep his shit in line.
Right.
But I think we can both agree that as much as Animal might have kept Hawk around, there wouldn't have been too much of a use for Animal without Hawk. Like I said earlier,
right.
Hawk was the heart and soul of the Road Warriors. Mm-hmm. And whereas Hawk, if the shoe were on the other foot, Hawk would have a chance of making it solo. Animal, not so much, because it's almost like the things that made Hawk are also the things that led to his undoing.
Right.
Which is kind of sad to say, but it's the truth.
Could we say that Hawk would have been more, as a singles, more successful if he was still able to be in WWE around Animal? Animal still could have kept him in line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. That's fair. I mean, just think about it. He was a big jacked up dude, and he had the look. Clearly, I mean, Vince would have creamed himself. He look, like seriously, like the only thing apparently that held Hawk back in that company would have been his attitude.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And just like his reliability, they kept bringing up towards the end here, reliability. You never knew, like when Hulk was on, when his head was in a game, you couldn't ask for a sweeter guy.
Yeah.
But when he was prone to do his outside the ring activities, you never knew what kind of Hulk you were going to get. You were either going to get him showing up to the shows fucked up on something to where you couldn't use him, or he might not show up at all.
Yeah.
And at that point, he becomes a liability because you can't advertise a guy that you don't know. And that's and the one thing, for as much as Vince harps on, for as much as Vince can be a piece of shit sometimes, the one thing he's adamant about is always giving people what he advertises. So if he advertises Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior, you best believe you're going to get Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't put a guy in a main event that you can't trust.
No. I totally agree with that. But I will say that the main takeaway from most of this video you get is these guys needed each other. Hawk needed Animal needed Hawk. They really did need each other, is what I gathered from this video, which is a great thing. But on that note, let's go ahead and keep going, keep playing some clips. I got another clip here. We're loaded up. Here we go.
Create their own version of the Road Warriors, and I think it was just lukewarm at best.
Oh, this is where he was in Japan and trying to create the new Road Warriors. Here we go.
It was good of him in his heart to take a kid who was at the bottom of the ladder and help build him to the top of the ladder. Kensuke Sasaki went from this immediately in Japan, where Hawk was this, to right here. Hawk made him into a superstar. I think the fans had mixed emotions. I think the Japanese fans liked it because they're helping out one of their own. The American fans, I think, they looked down on it big time.
There's a reason that Hawk and Animal, the Road Warriors, worked, because of Hawk and Animal together. But when you took them away from each other, a lot of the magic left.
People used to always ask me, you think Hawk and Animal will get back together? And they talked every day almost, because they were like brothers, and yeah, I always thought they'd get back together.
It took me about a year or two to get over it, though, before I really stopped being hot about it. But he and I had talked after about 6 months and everything else, because he would get...
All right, so there we go. Again, it good to hear they were still talking during this time. Took a year or two, for obviously, as Animal just said. But they did finally, Anthony, reunite in WCW 4 years later.
Yeah. I remember this vividly, yeah.
I actually do too. And Booker T wasn't very happy about it, Anthony. They did come back. They wrestled Sting and Luger in WCW. But Booker T was not very happy about this.
Yeah, he felt he said he wanted to do a Harlem Heat and Road Warriors feud.
Yeah, he was a little bitter. And, of course, I love Booker T, so I decided to play it.
I was a little ticked off when the Road Warriors did reunite, come back and challenge Sting and Luger, because I thought at that time the Harlem Heat was the hottest tag team going, and I always wanted to get in the ring with the Road Warriors and test our skills and see who was the best tag team.
We were the only guys when WCW had their deal with Japan that WCW would go to Japan and we would be dressing with the Japanese guys because we were so close and over in Japan. So that kind of really ticked off WCW because they had a contract going with New Japan. New Japan said, yeah, all other Gaijin, which means all other Americans, but Road Warriors separate. That really made them mad. So when we approached Eric Bischoff, we said, hey, man, we want to have a separate contract with Japan, a separate contract with you guys to work. He said, yeah, okay, no problem. He goes, I will make you my second highest paid guys in WCW. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 months, 2 months. Never came true. He never did it.
Okay. So there we go. So not only was Booker T pissed off, but Animal was saying WCW, the whole company was pissed off because they were over in Japan and all that stuff. Now, Anthony, would you expect anything less of Eric Bischoff to deny this?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
In Eric Bischoff's defense,
were you ready? Were you like ready for me to ask you that question or something?
I mean, pretty much. Yeah, I knew it. As soon as I watched this clip, I'm like, yeah. When I watched it earlier, like, yeah, like Box is gonna bring this up. So let me get myself prepared for it. But honestly, Bischoff, if you look at it, Bischoff gave an answer similar to what you would hear on this podcast.
Yes.
I don't recall, and in his defense, he was in charge of WCW at the time, and he did go through a lot of contracts.
True.
And here's the thing. In his defense, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Uh-oh.
I think Animal he was pissed off because I guess Bischoff had told him and Hawk that I'm going to make you guys my second highest paid acts in the company.
And give him separate contracts for New Japan and for WCW. Yes, exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah. But let me see. This probably would have been before Hall and Nash got there. So I'm assuming he would have been talking about Hogan.
Right.
But you got to figure, but then you rock the boat because you got Ric Flair over here. He's a top guy. You got legacy guys like Arn Anderson and who else would have been there? Think JJ, guys that had been around. Dusty was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Those legacy guys, they wouldn't have been too happy about it. And also, I don't know if you remember, you know what a favorite nations contract is?
Yeah, yes, I do.
So basically, this would have been a few months after, because Road Warriors, they didn't last too long in WCW during this time period.
Right.
Because I guess after Bischoff reneged on the contract situation, they said, fuck it, we're going to be split. So a couple of months later, Hall and Nash come in, and when they signed their contracts, and this is how smart they are, they had written into their contracts a favorite nations clause, meaning that basically anybody that you sign after us, you have to bump us up. So if you sign this X person over here for more money than you paid us initially, they automatically get a bump in pay.
Right. Exactly.
So just imagine if you're Eric Bischoff during this time period, having to keep up with all of this shit.
Ugh.
So I think you got to kind of cut the guy some slack, because you got to keep a lot of people happy.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Road Warriors, whether it's Hogan, whether it's Flair, whether it's Macho Man, like you can't just say, okay, the Road Warriors are going to come in after having a 4-year layoff, and they're automatically going to be bumped up to like Hogan level money.
Right.
You think a guy like Macho Man, a guy like Ric Flair is going to sit back and go like, yeah, okay, no problem. You're the Road Warriors, and just like let that shit slide. So you gotta cut the guy some slack.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you do. And also Sky Genie, check out Sky Genie's show, is saying that they did reunite in 1995 in AWF, then once in New Japan. So, I mean, they did reunite a couple of times before this, but this was their main television appearance. Once again, it was hard to watch New Japan even back then, especially without fucking, internet. But let's go ahead and, of course, like I said, Eric Bischoff gives the usual answer. Let's go ahead and hear what Eric Bischoff had to say, Anthony.
Not sure what Animal's talking about in terms of me offering him different types of contracts. People have a tendency to kind of recreate history to suit their own needs and goals at the time. So to be honest with you, I may have. I don't remember what the details were. It was quite a long time ago. And their contract was one of probably 150 agreements that I've negotiated over the last 8 or 9 years. So I honestly don't remember the specific.
Double talk, back talk, double talk, back talk, double talk, back talk. Anyway. Yeah, Bischoff gave the usual answer that you would expect. And then from there, Anthony, we get to basically 1998, where they actually come back to WWF. Because I'm just saying the whole little contract thing made them leave WCW. They went back to WWF. And what were you going to say?
No, I said actually they came back and this is where I say they actually probably did right by Hulk here, because if you remember, they actually came back in 97 because they did a pop up on Raw. Then they helped Ahmed Johnson in the feud with the Nation, and then they were a part of the USA versus Canada feud in the summer, and then they ended the year putting over the Outlaws, and they had I think it was DX and the Outlaws that put them through the table, shaved Hulk's mohawk, and this was during that time period where they were calling them old LD,
right?
OLD, yeah,
OLD.
Kind of like which was bizarre because they weren't actually that old during that time period.
Right.
The gimmick might have been long in the tooth, but the guys' ages, they weren't that old because Hulk passed away when he's 46.
Right.
This would have been 97, 98. That means he wasn't that old.
Yeah, and Sky Genie actually just said they skipped 97, and yeah, you're right, they did. I actually forgot about that until you just said it. But they did return in 1998 as horrible as LOD or Road Warriors 2000. I don't know. It was horrible no matter what it was, no matter what you called it. Sunny looked good back then, but that was pretty much it. But
whatever happened to her boyfriend? She was with a guy, right?
We don't have to get into Sunny. You know what? She was hot back then. Let's just leave it at that, Anthony. The next clip I have, though, is Hawk bringing back Paul Ellering. At least they thought they were bringing back Paul Ellering.
Horrible.
Absolutely disgusting. Disgusting how this went through. He ends up bringing out DOA instead. Skull and 8-Ball, I believe, were their names. Then they bring out Draws. And he was added after Hawk failed a wellness test. And they didn't want him in the ring, so they actually brought Draws in to sort of replace him. And I'm going to go ahead and play the clip as soon as I get the right mouse. And 1, 2, 3. Here we go.
Some time ago, when we were two punks in Chicago, there was a great man who came and saw success in us. He brought us into the wrestling world. He got us to win every title possible in wrestling. And now, once again reunited, Precious Paul Ellering in our hands.
What? Precious Paul Ellering? We thought he was coming back to be our manager, totally 100%.
I want to introduce you to my new team, 8-Ball and Skull.
It was a setup.
It was a tremendous challenge, again, to go back in 98 and work with another tag team opposite of Animal and Hawk.
All right. Ellering had his check in his pocket, too. Obviously.
And we don't even have to play. We don't have to play the clip. But in summary, I like what Hawk. I like what Animal said about Ellering. Almost, not knowing what to say in promos, and because he felt weird about tearing those guys down, because it wasn't just a case of a gimmick for him. I don't think, because he was their manager, legit. He was, and I'll go as far as to say he was their friend for a large chunk of time.
Right. And
to all of a sudden had to cut promos, tearing them down after basically building them up all of those years. It had to feel kind of off for him. And I actually appreciate them keeping that little clip in the documentary, because they could have easily cut that out to spin it like, oh, it was a good thing. They did. The Road Warriors were past their prime, and I was more than happy to do that, because they could have easily did some slimy shit like that.
Right.
Because I don't know if you know, when they do these documentaries, they interview these guys at different points for hours and hours on end.
Yep.
And then they cut it up and take out the parts that fit the narrative or whatever story they're trying to tell. So, and literally they could interview a guy for 4 hours, but only use a 30-second clip of something he said.
Right. Just like the news does and every other fucking thing does. Yeah, it's the same shit. Michael Andolini. Sunny was hot in the 90s, but now she's cloudy with a chance of STDs. Very good. Point taken, sir. I agree with that statement, actually. She is cloudy with more than a chance of STDs. You're definitely getting something. Anyway, Anthony, now we get to this Hawk.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the storyline, the drinking storyline, the drunk storyline.
They tried to defend it, and no, there's no justification for this, man. Like this,
none.
This is the part where this is like the hard part of the documentary for me, because I get irritated and bent out of shape about it every fucking time I see it. It was wrong. It was wrong when WCW did it with Scott Hall.
Right.
It's wrong. It's just as wrong here, because you're taking a guy. I don't give a fuck if he was in a good place or not. to where he felt comfortable doing it. You don't make light of a guy's addiction issues, especially a guy who could easily fall off the wagon at any goddamn point. So even if he's at a point in his life where he's straight, he's clear-headed, he's focused, no, fuck that, man. I mean, because you're taking advantage of a guy's situation. You're taking advantage of a guy's plight for profit. Profit. I mean, and there's no benefit from, okay, this guy's a fuck up in real life. You know, we know he has a drug problem or drinking problem. Let's put it on TV. Let's exploit it. And I just think that's wrong. It's just crass. Even by pro wrestling standards. Yeah. I don't know how anybody involved could look back on this and say, yeah, that was a good idea. That was the best use of this guy.
Right. Yeah. I can't argue with any of that. And I completely agree. I think it's just wrong. I mean, literally, it's like they think that, or they forget that anyone, once you're an alcoholic, once you're an addict, you relapse. You can relapse anytime, any day. It takes one little thing and you can relapse. And it's like they forget that. Oh, he's cured. No, you're never cured from alcoholism. You're never cured from addiction. It doesn't work that way. Trust me. I've had 2 family members die from heroin overdoses, and I know that you're never cured from it. Both of them had quote unquote kicked it, and they really didn't. So trust me, I understand what that is like. So I really don't like this storyline. I hated it when it happened. I hated the whole falling off the Titantron shit. But
having him be like he was suicidal, basically.
Yeah, it was. And if you watch it and you really watch it, Draws pushes him. Literally pushes him.
It was obvious.
It was obvious. I think he was like, "You better push me because I ain't fucking falling." So anyway, let's go ahead and play this clip right here. This is a little bit of the drinking storyline. Here we go.
That he was trying to make that heat subside with Vince, and so he was trying to make that go away. Hawk stepped up and said, "I'll do it." I said, "You sure?" I said, "Man, they're going to be opening up a lot of can of worms with you." And he says, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Hawk needs help. He doesn't need to be here wrestling. He doesn't need to be here in the ring. He didn't even put on his wrestling. Look at him. Now he's tagging Kurgan. He doesn't even know whose partner he is. He doesn't even know what corner he's in. Ooh.
It flew faster than hotcakes because everybody knew what he did.
Oh, this was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Just, I felt.
And that was horse shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, I've defended Vince a lot on a lot of things, but when you hear that part about Animal saying, well, Hawk, as a part of trying to make amends with Vince, he said, he stepped right up and said, "I'll do it." Are you sure, pal?
Yeah.
I could picture that conversation. Are you sure, pal? You know, we don't want to open up a can of worms with you. You had some issues there, but it was almost like one of those, I get the sense that it was one of those wink, wink, nudge, nudge things where it's like, yeah, you don't have to do it, but it'd be a good idea if you would do it because we really want to do it. And I'm like, Come on, man. Once again, you're taking advantage of a guy's situation because you want to get your jollies off, not only his expense, but you want to kind of rub it in like, oh, he needs me more than I need him. He gave me a problem way back when, so this is my way of exercising my revenge. This is my way of working out that revenge kick. You know what I mean? Just kind of like trying to stick it to a guy you felt like wronged you. And like, I don't know. It's just wrong to me. If you want to like dick a guy around, I prefer you just don't hire him because that's the best revenge. Don't pay the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't pay the guy, but to bring a guy in and to humble a guy at the expense of, once again, his family. Because I'm pretty like, I don't know if he has kids or anything, but he has a wife, he has parents, and they had to deal with the shit of his substance abuse issues. So I'm pretty sure they probably had big time issues watching this guy on TV play drunk when they've seen him real drunk.
Right.
So, I mean, once again, a lot of people are affected by shit like this. Not just the person that's actively in the angle, but that person's family. It's no different than, it's the whole reason Arn Anderson was pissed off at Bischoff and the NWO for making, basically implying that he was an alcoholic. He drank too much. I mean, as funny as the skit was, if you're Arn Anderson and you might have had a drinking problem at one point in your life that your family might have been exposed to, kids, wife, the whole bit, it's not a good look because I apparently, from what I remember, he actually had to hear about that at home.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of these people don't really think about. To them, it's just wrestling and ha ha, he. But you got to realize people have lives beyond what you see on TV.
Exactly. We get now to where Hawk did leave. He made some changes. He got sober, found Christianity, which, you know, I got no problem with anyone doing that. And believe it or not, when you're in AA, that's one of the steps, is to turn your life over to God. So it sounds like, and they never said it, but it sounds like he started going to meetings, in my opinion. So I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip, and we can go ahead and go on from there. Let me get some volume. I turned it down a minute ago. Here we go. Let's roll it.
And himself, he was the Mike Hicks I met 20 years ago. The fans never, ever thought anything of it. They saw right through it all, and they always appreciated and loved us and cheered for us. And proof of it was when we did Raw and SmackDown the last time. We wanted to have our last run and go out with a bang with Vince, our very last run. I knew there was probably a trust factor there with WWE, with Hawk. You got to be true this time. He's going to be straight. Is this really going to be the real deal? I know before we came in to do Raw in Philadelphia, I know there was like 6, 7, 8 times he tried to call and talk to Vince. He just wanted to call and apologize and say, hey, I'm a new man. I did what I did. I wasn't thinking. That's why when we went and did Raw, Hawk wanted to prove that he was going to be a man about it and do the job the right way.
Once again, Anthony, he was trying to make amends.
Yeah.
Which is, again, that's another AA thing, make amends.
Yep. So it's basically like hidden meanings and all that kind of shit that they're trying to imply that towards the end, we said a lot of fucked up shit about the guy's personal habits here, but he was in the process of making things right. And I also want to point out that, and I had no idea it was going to be the last time, but I was actually at the show that they had that Raw in for their final appearance, because it was in Philly.
Wow, really?
Yep. And I wasn't only, for some reason I skipped the internet that day. So when they came out, it was like a shock to me.
Nice.
So I was legitimately surprised to hear that music, dude. And like literally the pop they got that night, man, it was cool to be a part of that.
That's awesome. That is a cool thing that you were there. And from here, we get to the end. This is it. This is my last clip. This is the end of the video. This is where we get to Hawk's death. And let's go ahead and play it.
You know, I got a call from Joe. You know, Joe called me up and said Mike had died.
He goes, I got to go move some boxes out and help my wife. I'll call you back later. So he moved all the heavy stuff in and out of his house for his wife. And it was like he knew he had to get it all done because there was no heavy stuff left to move, that he was going to go.
For him to pass away, it was just, it was really, like I said, numbing, but it was devastating too, and just really, really hurt and really hit home.
Hawk was one of those guys that you just didn't think would ever die.
It was like he knew that he only had so much time to go, and he wanted to go the right way and make sure everything was paid or whatever there for his wife, and that's the way.
All right. I'm going to leave it at that right there. It just gets a little worse from there. Once again, it's always the story. Oh, he just cleaned up his life. He just got everything better. Oh, he just got sober. And all those kind of, I just made up with the guy. You always think there's time, and just like Michael Hayes said, Hawk was a guy you just didn't think was going to die. You never think anyone's going to die. You always think everyone's going to live forever. It's just the way it is. And it's just not that way. But I mean, this is those stories that you hear. Oh, he just did this. He just got sober. He just cleaned everything up. And then suddenly just passes away. But like you said, Anthony, earlier in the show, when you're doing all this stuff, your body eventually just says, fuck it. I can't take anymore. And I mean, he had been abusing, according to the video, a lot of drugs alcohol, and for a very long time.
Yeah, I put it to you like this, Bob. You can't be a hardcore drug addict, alcoholic for 10, 15 years, get clean and be clean for like 2 to 3 years and not expect some shit to happen. You know what I mean? It's like the whole Eddie Guerrero thing. And that's fucking depressing. I only bring that shit up because, he just, we're a few days removed from, what would have been his 52nd birthday. But that's another guy who abused drugs for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
And he got himself right. But at the end of the day, his heart couldn't take anymore, because if you remember, Eddie Guerrero, you remember what Eddie Guerrero looked like before he got shredded, right? He was kind of like, he was in shape and wrestling shape, but he was like kind of pudgy.
Right.
Kind of like, he looked like a regular dude, like pudgy, like, just like a regular type of guy.
Right.
But then he had the car accident in WCW. He just came back shredded.
He came back looking like Triple H.
Yeah, no, and then when he got to WWE, he got like bigger.
Yes.
Like when he came back the second time, when he made his return from getting fired, he came back a whole different person.
Oh yeah.
Like literally, like you look at Eddie Guerrero in 2005 versus 1995, it's like, it's a totally different human being. He didn't even wrestle the same stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was still great in the ring, but he had put on so much muscle mass that he wasn't as fluid. That's the best way I could put it. He moved a lot more stiffer than he did just 2 years before that.
Yeah.
2-3 years prior.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. He definitely, and he started working a little more of a power move kind of guy instead of a high flyer. Yeah, I mean, I think we delved into this video as much as we could. Anthony, we have that little story that we were sent. I think Michael Andolini sent us that. Was it him or was it?
Yeah,
him?
it was him.
It was him. All right, I still have that. I've got it loaded up. Why don't we go ahead and play it? It's Todd Gordon telling a story of Hawk and ECW. So let's go ahead and play this. Here we go.
You said that. We had Hawk in a one of the like semi-mains, let's say, in an arena show. He calls me up, I guess the day before. Deep voices. I gotta be honest with you, brother. I'm not gonna be there Saturday night. What are you talking about? We've been advertising this on TV for like the last 4 years. I ain't gonna lie to you. You never lied to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm on lockdown. You're in jail? He goes, no, lockdown. I'm just smoking the shit in the mountains in a cabin, and I'm not coming out for a couple of days. Thank you for being honest. But no, and on some level, he would have just no shown anybody else. He would just told me like a couple of days later, yeah, I got something happened to play. But he didn't do that. He said, I respect for you. I'm not going to lie to you.
Right.
I'm getting fucked up, but I'm not going to lie to you.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to choose locking myself in a cabin and smoking crack.
I'll tell you what.
As opposed.
All right. So yeah, he said the story was a little dark. Wow. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm sitting here getting fucked up. I'm not going to be at your show. Not a good way to end the show, Anthony. Let's figure something else out to do. Anthony's on mute, so I don't even know what to do at this point.
I'm here.
That's a pretty dark story right there.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a better way to end the show, but I just sent you a clip. Have you ever heard about the story about Too Cold Scorpio and Hawk getting into a little altercation?
No, where did you send that clip to?
I sent it to you on Facebook.
Messenger?
Yeah.
Give me 1 sec. Let me load the old Messenger up here.
Yeah, basically, Scorpio, I don't know if you've heard, but Scorpio is not one to be fucked with. And he basically, I'll let him tell it because he tells the story a hell of a lot better than I can. But basically, Hawk dropped some, let's just say, insensitive language when it came to one Mr. Scorpio. Scorpio didn't take kindly to it, and he dropped him.
All right. Well, I guess we'll hear that. And Michael Andolini says that story went a little further, and I just didn't want to play it. It just got too dark and right there. Hawk did make up for it. He did a kind of 2-for-1. He decided he said he would do 2 shows and only charge him for 1. So he did a little 2-for there. So that's not bad. And by the way, that was obviously on kayfabe commentaries. And this is also another kayfabe commentaries clip that Anthony just sent me, which I'm pulling up right now. Give me a few more seconds here. Is it right here at the beginning, Anthony?
Yeah, I didn't have time to play it, so your guess is as good as mine. But the question he is asked about Hulk, so I did check that part for sure.
I think it might be this first question right here. Then let's go ahead and yeah, that's probably good because it's an 11-minute video. All right, let's go ahead and back up here, give you some volume, and let's hit this motherfucker. Here we go.
Chad Munns, in WCW Battle Bowl, the Lethal Lottery, you and Flair went to square off. Just before you two tied up, he said something to you that seemingly stunned you for a bit. And was this escalated further as to you saying, fuck Flair, which led to you and Hawk going at it?
Nah. You know, at that given point in time, you're talking about idols and people like that I've seen, that I grew up wrestling. For me to even get in the ring with Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, any one of those guys of a name or with their statue, to me was a real pleasure. But at the same time, I was trained in Japan. I don't give a fuck what your name is. If you try to disrespect me, I gotta hold my own. If you try to eat me up in the ring, which ain't gonna happen, I'm gonna fight back and hold my own. There, at that given point in time, there was no problem with Flair and me at that given point in time. I want to say, me, with my hostility itself, being at the time, Badwell talking about WCW, me getting fired, I think that had to do with me just personally, Ric Flair being the boss, being in the kind of the office, kind of being mad, kind of need a way, you know, if we need to get rid of somebody, how we get rid of somebody. The quickest way to get rid of somebody is, okay, test them for the drugs. Okay, so at that given point in time, okay, you got busted for weed, they send you to a class. You go to the class, smoking weed, going to the goddamn class, take the test and bullshit, pass the drug test class, smoke weed on your way, going goddamn back and shit, right? And then you realize that you gotta take a piss test. So it's like, damn, now I gotta stop smoking weed because I still gotta take a piss test, but my level's lower than what it was. So, you know, so that's a good thing. But, I think what really happened is that time Ric Flair had that beach over there. And, he had, you know, built that Gold's Gym down there in the Bahamas and we all went over there and shit. And I think at that given point in time is when I started kind of getting pissed off and mad. Is that given point in time, we went over there, he took us over there and shit. He brought us all over there. It was a great time, good deal with the new opening gym, hat match down and everything. But I fucked up and went out and partied and, you know, snorting up big cocaine and shit with the Nasty Boys and fucking Brian Pillman and, yeah, you know, and Buddy Lee Parker, all these motherfuckers in my goddamn room partying all goddamn night when I should have been in they motherfucking room partying. So now motherfuckers can't kick dirt up on me and shit, drinking, having a party. I ain't worried about the fucking Nasty Boys and shit because they cool like that. You know what I mean? Nasty Boys, just Nasty Boys. They gonna do what the fuck.
Okay, this is more ADD than this show. All right, I don't even think I can listen to this anymore. This is more ADHD than the show you're listening to right now, folks.
We stayed on point tonight.
Jesus, this is crazy.
But dude, like, I don't know, man. Scorpio, like, he's comedy gold on a shoot interview, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but Jesus, man, I can't take this no more.
I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully he was getting to the punchline soon.
They gonna do if you in, you in. If they like you, you in. If they don't like you, your ass ain't gonna be in.
Right.
So, you know, I was in. So we was able to hang out and party. Brian, I don't know how the fuck that motherfucker ended up in my goddamn room partying and shit, cause that was one motherfucker that I couldn't trust as far as I could throw his ass.
Really? Okay.
You know what I mean? So, but nevertheless, Pillman was all there and shit, we was all partying. What my part was fucking up is Buddy Lee, you know, good guy, not really thinking about nothing, and then Brian Pillman. You got these motherfuckers still high as
all right, he's sitting there with a vape pen doing this shit. He's high as fuck. All right, Anthony, we're no more. I can't do it. I can't do anymore, Anthony. He's higher than me right now. And I'm fucking high. All right. I mean,
shit. Wait, hold on.
We're 3 minutes in and I can't do anymore. If you could find where you want me to go, it's fine. But Jesus Christ, man, this guy is driving me nuts.
Hold on, this might help us. I found a shorter clip of the same story. Hold on.
Getting late, man. Come on, we're at 3 hours here.
Let me see. Hopefully that one works. 3 minutes, 7 seconds. Boom.
Hold on. Here we go. It's popping up right now. Here we go. All right, here we go. Scorpio in his fight with Hawk. There better not be a fucking ad. If there's an ad, I'm going to fucking throw my mouse. All right, there's no ad. Here we go.
Now, did the incident with Hawk happen on that tour?
As a matter of fact, it did. And it all regarded about pretty much everybody being stressed out, been out of gimmicks, been out of Roy's, been out of the stuff that they used to have and stuff like that. I think that had a lot of attention and stuff to do with it. And then me, just Scorpio and the mouth that I have sometimes and shit, had a lot to do with the situation too at the time and stuff, Ric Flair standing in the door doing the Ric Flair thing and Hawk looking at Ric Flair and Ric Flair looking around like he might be looking for somebody, and Hawk says, I think Ric Flair's looking for somebody. Maybe he's looking for me to go ride in the car with him again. And me being as smart as I be, I said, F that pussy, let him ride by himself. And I guess he didn't hear the F part or the pussy part or whatever it was. And he asked me what I said, and I said it again, and next thing you know, fight was on.
Were you a little worried getting in a skirmish like that in North Korea with your passport seized?
I thought I was going to be thrown in goddamn jail and be locked over there, and everybody was going to be back over there in Japan, and my ass was still going to be in North Korea, stuck in the damn jail, and ain't done a damn thing I can do. Thank God it was on the bus, not in the streets, and it wasn't something that was more serious where, one of us, was in the process of having to lose a limb or something like that and had to go to the hospital, because then it probably would have been some kind of charges or something, brought upon me or something that would have happened, so.
It was more of just a quick thing, and when it was over, it was over?
No, not necessarily. It kind of lingered on for a few hours and a few days and stuff like that. And by the time we got back to Japan, it pretty much was all squashed and settled by that time and stuff. But I was also forewarned by Black Cat Nicholson, rest in peace, that also told me at the given point in time, hey, look, bro, because I was planning on doing some real devious type stuff, that, no man probably should be thinking of doing it in his right mind. And like he said, if you do that over here, bro, you're pretty much on your own. You can, go ahead and kiss the States goodbye and your life. If this happens in Japan, well, and that's a different story. I can probably get you out. I know enough people I can probably get you home. You know what I mean? It won't be the safest way, but I can get you home.
Okay. Sounds like Scorpio is about to have this motherfucker hit. Or do it his damn self. And by the way, the vape pen right there in his pocket. He's high as a motherfucker again.
Do you think he was more coherent in take two?
Very, very little. Very little. A little more, but not that much.
Jesus.
Wow. Anyway, great story. Let's wrap this up, Anthony.
Yes. We dug deep on this one.
We did. I think we've said everything that could be said. On that note, let's go ahead and get this shit done with. I'll go ahead and play some fucking music for y'all. Here we go. Of course, shout out to Wrestling OD, Wrestling Overdose over there. Check Shaheen out over there. Also at Nuclear Heat Graphics, nuclearheatshop.com. Wrestling's what?
Wrestling's high marks?
Wrestling's high marks. That's right. I don't know if they're going to be as high as fucking Too Cold Scorpio, but they're high. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know how high they are, but Scorpio's pretty fucking high as far as I'm concerned. Shout out to Bobby Anthem and Bobby Blades over there on Inhuman Experience, and of course Bobby Anthem over there searching for his lost soul. Check that out on the Inhuman Experience feed, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere else like that. Eric, Doug, and Daniel over there on Unscripted Wrestling on the Philly Sports Passion feed. You can check them out everywhere podcasts are found. You can check out Wrestling Umbrella. Check out the Mark Report Tuesday, 6:30 a.m. on YouTube. And you can check me and Anthony out here every other Saturday at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this Mixler. And don't forget, you guys can leave us a review on iTunes. You guys can
please
go ahead and please
leave us a review.
Go ahead on. You can even go on Spreaker. Follow us on Spreaker. We're over there too. And there you go. And of course, the WNC show Thursdays after Wrestling Soup with Michael Endolini. I think he's over there. I don't know if he's over there, but whatever. He's asking us to plug it, so goddamn it, I will. And there you go, folks. Appreciate everybody joining us, especially, like I said, we go late night. Appreciate everybody joining us late night. And Anthony, appreciate you joining us.
Of course.
And there you go. We dug into this pretty deep. I don't think we can go any deeper. And there you go. Ladies, gentlemen, good night. Thank you for joining us. Anthony, I'm going old school here.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
Later.
Peace.